We are in fucking Hollywood, man.
Welcome to the Playback Podcast. Welcome to the 404 Films Podcast. Today we're not talking about a movie. We're going back and we're talking about another game because I am joined with game expert David Dixon. Maybe game expert is an exaggeration.
Excuse me. 93 platinum trophies and counting.
I'm sure digital trophies mean a lot to you in your life.
They do indeed in the world of games, yeah.
But today we're talking about
Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil 8.
I just keep calling it 8.
I call it 8 as well, yeah.
What do you think of the... Firstly, what do you think of the name?
It's a very unique name. When I first heard it, I thought that was the working title, and I thought, oh, it's not actually going to be called that. But
pretty boring.
We'll get into this later, I guess. But the village aspect of it is, it makes sense, the title. I like the VIII, the 8.
Yeah, actually, no, yeah. I take
that's probably why they did it.
And then what did 7 do? It did Biohazard, but it was like...
Yeah, the Resident Evil EVIL, I think, was the EVI.
Okay, yeah.
Built. And I guess, from what I understand, for Resident Evil 9, their plan is to call it Resident Evil Exit and make IX out of that.
So they've just gone like a...
They're trapped now, yeah. I think they want to make that Resident Evil 9 the last numbered Resident Evil, and then after that, make them more like an anthology where it follows just different characters in the universe. Or
didn't Resident Evil 7 though, because like all in Japan they're called Biohazard.
They are, yeah.
So 7 in Japan was called
Biohazard Resident Evil,
which makes total sense for that game because it's set in a house and it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But like for us to be called over here, I mean in Europe, it to be called Resident Evil Biohazard just seems like they couldn't think of a subtitle.
Yeah, I guess you could argue that spoilers, by the way, for Resident Evil 7 and 8.
Oh, totally. This is not going to be like the
Last of Us.
Like, I really don't want to do like what I did with the Last of Us 2 podcast.
The Biohazard element, I guess you could argue, is the molded and the sort of corrupted environment of the bio.
Kind of all of them have biohazard stuff related to it.
Yeah, but I guess if you wanted to make that, like, explain why they called it that.
I think they were lazy.
I will say this. Resident Evil is a way better name than Biohazard, but
I don't get it. I get it for like some of them. I don't get it. Like, is it resident as in it's currently living with us, and it's like that is the resident of the house. So like the first one,
the residents of evil. It makes sense for the first the most.
For
like
the first
House
one
of
for
the
the
Dead.
mansion, I think it worked for the 7 one, and I think it's a fine name as it goes further. Biohazard, I guess.
Yeah, it just sounds very generic.
Yeah,
and the games are anything but.
Yeah,
as 7 and 8.
I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. So what's Resident Evil generally? We can talk on and on and on about how many, like 20 odd games in the series now.
Yeah, quite a few. And very few game series get to that level of, like, obviously Final Fantasy and such as, but very few beyond that get to like 8 or not, like,
well, it's gone
number.
Since
like physically named number name.
7 is it? 1996?
For which?
Resident Evil?
Resident Evil 1996, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and then like PS1 all the way up now to the PS5.
Yeah, it's historically been a very Sony or PlayStation franchise. Not always, but it's like 1996 for Resident Evil 1, 98 for 2, 99 for 3, and then 2005 for 4, 9 for 2009 for Resident Evil 5, 2012 or 13 for 6, 17 for 7, and 21 for 8.
And now
how much of a nerd am I?
One, and it will be really disappointing, and we'll have to wait a very long time if that's what the record shows. It's going in trilogies, you know?
It seems, hold on.
This is the only game. Village has been the only, like, if we're breaking them into trilogies.
Yeah.
But there's no third one for this yet. But if we were, this would be most comparable to Resident Evil 2 in regards to a sequel kind of game of this little quote-unquote trilogy, far, like, surpassing the other one, in my opinion. I think...
They're very different games. It's funny that all three trilogy, well, the middle trilogy, I guess, of 4, 5, and 6, less so, but with regards to the original trilogy...
That's like the action trilogy.
Yeah.
I threw up air quotes again. I gotta... people can't see me in this one, but like that one is very much the action trilogy going forward, and now they've gone back to survival horror to make it scary, and they've learned from 2017 from Resident Evil 7, they've learned from all these games that came out between now and then. So Outlast and Amnesia. So we're doing a lot of
PT, Silent Hills, the demo.
Well, there's a whole thing that we want to talk about.
A whole thing about that, yeah.
But it's all POV for 7 and 8. And you're not playing as... Well, I keep cutting like way ahead.
We're jumping ahead of ourselves, yeah.
What is Resident Evil, just briefly for anyone that doesn't know?
It is a survival horror franchise made by Capcom, who made Mega Man and such. And it's a very interesting series because it's gone through so many iterations as any other series I can think of, and has always managed to keep itself pretty relevant, I think. It's always actually been, the original games on the PS1 were all famously tank controls. They have the fixed camera angles.
They're not for everybody, I think.
They're not for everybody. I like them a lot, but they're not for everybody.
I think it helps if you've been playing them a long, long time. As in, I don't mean the series. I mean those originals. You can go back to them if you've played them since you were younger. I think you go back and it's kind of the charm. A lot of people will get frustrated in the first 5 minutes and then proceed
there's a lot of artistry that you can see. That people dunk on the fixed camera angles. For anyone who doesn't know what I mean by this, when you're playing a game normally, like, you obviously can control the camera yourself, or there's no camera control. But in Resident Evil, the old ones, it's very specifically like camera angles fixed at a certain... It might be up on the ceiling looking down at you. It might be down from below. It plays into the horror. Yeah,
that's why it was considered like a... That's kind of what I want to talk about. Not just because this is another kind of horror game like Last of Us. We both mentioned how much we liked Resident Evil during the Last of Us 2 podcast, but it's such a good horror game. And the first one's because of those fixed camera angles where you're not in control. So when you're walking down a hallway and the camera is up in the corner and you're a speck when you're walking down the hallway, and you've got to get to the top of the hallway to properly see yourself, and something is running from like either in front of you or behind you, there's no control there. You've got to basically just rely on this little camera angle, and
absolutely
it's really scary.
It's very like you're totally at the mercy of the devs. They know exactly what's going to happen and you don't, and that's the brilliance of it. Now, they're not... I'd love to play a game like that today with AAA sort of. I don't think those types of games would be made today because I think
I'd lose patience. I don't think I'd be able to...
Yeah, like even the remakes that come out of 0 and 1, like the remasters of the remakes, they change things to adapt the controls, like the tank controls, where you control like a tank. You pivot on the ground. You don't strafe. You just turn. When you're turning right, you stay standing in the same spot, but you just turn your body to the right, and then you move forward. It's very... at the time, it makes sense, and it's a very interesting way to... I remember Shinji Mikami, who's the creator of Resident Evil, he said that part of the reason they wanted to do that was if something suddenly unexpected happened, they wanted it to be very difficult for you to get out of it, so you'd start to panic. And it's a very interesting philosophy that I don't think a game nowadays would probably do or get away with, this idea that they're intentionally trying to make it difficult for you.
Well, look at all the Metal Gear Solids.
Yeah, which are games I have not played, but
aren't they like extremely I mean, I haven't really played a lot of them since the third one, but I'm pretty sure they just gone out of their way to make stuff difficult. Those are a little different, I guess, because Kojima, who makes those games, is a bit of an auteur, or the video game equivalent of an auteur. But that's true, I guess, that they do very break the fourth wall things or different things to make it more... Bringing him up isn't either just a random point, because him and Guillermo del Toro were going to make PT together.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, PT has really big relevance to Resident Evil 8. But
it does.
Getting ahead of ourselves. So basically, they're just survival horror games that rely on a lot of body horror. They're the biggest kind of zombie game, one of the first ones. So, to talk more about movies, George A. Romero made the zombie that everyone knows today. So, Night of the Living Dead in 1968. I think it was 1968. Made the zombie that, runs around and eats people and you shoot it in the head. They took that idea, put a bunch of stuff from John Carpenter's The Thing, made a survival horror where a bunch of people are in a mansion trying to survive all these elements of like mutations and bio weapons and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, you know?
It's interesting because with regards to games, I know they were very big influences from Sweet Home. I think it's the name that Capcom or a company made on the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is going back like 30 years now, nearly 40 years now. And then Alone in the Dark, which was a PC game in the early 90s, which has a lot of the elements that Resident Evil has gameplay wise, the fixed camera angles. It's actually quite I wouldn't say it's straight up frightening, but for the time it came out, just incidentally, if anyone wants some extracurricular reading, there is playthroughs you can look up Alone in the Dark. It's only like 90 minutes long.
It's not a way to hype something up, you know?
Yeah,
Extracurricular, like
a bit of what would you call it? Fun.
additional information.
There you go. Some additional information for broader learning on the subject.
No, not learning.
Broader
It's not
experience,
it's not an
broader
exam,
fun,
you know?
more fun. It's only like an hour long or 2 hours long. I only bring that up because it was obviously a huge influence on Resident Evil. So, but what Resident Evil adds, I think, is some of them unintentionally a bit of camp, but also they're like puzzle games almost. Like that's the element I love about them. It's a mystery and like even gameplay wise, you know, you're trying to find certain keys to get to certain places. There's lots of it's like a puzzle. It's like a mystery, and it's fun to solve the mystery, find the keys, you know.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Like too, it's like something like Portal, but like very, very unnerving. You know, like
Yeah.
the music is extremely unnerving.
It
whole
has
music is like
that
a
horror
huge
element.
thing.
Yeah, it's
So-
they're very good games, but as time went on, people stopped buying them, or there was less and less
It
interest.
went from horror to an action.
It did.
Again,
yeah.
I think I'm describing it. We're just sitting here describing it for people who haven't played it. I feel like that's going to go out the window when we start talking about Village, because I am not going to go through it bit by bit. I am going to talk freely, and I hope that people who are listening have played it or don't care, because I am not going to have any.
Well, this is primarily a
experience
film
with spoilers.
podcast, I guess. So it's for people. It's I guess it's a snapshot. I don't know, like
You
how
haven't listened to the podcast before.
No,
I don't know
I don't-
what goes on in this show.
I don't know what goes like. I don't know like what the crossover is. I guess it's cool.
The films is just a name. I just do whatever I want. But
That's fair.
on a side note, the Resident Evil movies are really bad, and I'll talk about them some other day. But I'm not fucking arsed doing that at the minute. Like they're just bad. The first two are fun, but like they become Mad Max. But I just think
You could do a whole podcast on like if you did a podcast on the entire series, it could be like 100 hours long. There's so much to talk about.
I don't think I could do every game and film, because it's just too much of them. So much of them are bad as well. A lot of the games are just shite. Like
Yeah, like you said there, it's a bit like it
Sort of
pains me to
Nintendo
say. It's a little like
like
the Sonic
exclusives
series or
and
stuff
stuff,
like
you know?
this, where I'm a huge Sonic fan, but there's like 150 games, and I'd
Mhm.
say maybe 30 or 40 of them are really good, and the rest are like shovelware. It's like that with a lot of stuff. It's like The Simpsons. It's like lots of stuff where the good stuff is probably the minority. Although in the last few years, Capcom have, like I said, the series has evolved so much. So you have the original survival horrors, then you have the 4, 5, and 6, which are more like action horror. By the time 6 came along, it was almost like pure on
have a
Hollywood
lot
action
of
movie.
first-person shooter ones as well, like arcade games. for
Yeah,
Wii,
Outbreak
A lot of
and
Nintendo exclusive stuff.
Survivor,
like, for
Umbrella
the
Chronicles,
Switch.
Darkside Chronicles.
Yeah, it's a bad game.
Where do you think?
I
Like,
think so,
don't you?
yeah. Which I don't know. There's like 3 of them, isn't there? Like Umbrella Chronicles. There's
There was Operation Raccoon City.
that's bad.
That's bad.
That's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember getting Umbrella Chronicles, and you actually know what's the best one that's first person is for the PlayStation 2. Dead Aim.
Dead
Dead
Aim
Aim.
might be the one, yeah.
Dead Aim. Dead Aim was great though. I thought that was really good. I also liked the Outbreak games.
I've never, I should, there's a lot of them I do want to play. Like, we said at the very start, I'm big into my trophies, and I do want to get.
No. That's such an understatement. Obsessed would be the right
I'm
word.
obsessed with my trophies. And one of the
Unhealthy would be
unhealthy obsession. What I wanted to do was this year, I wanted to try and get the platinum trophies for Resident Evil 1 through 8. I know Resident Evil 0 exists. I just don't really. I find it difficult, any of them outside the 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
a
6,
lot
7.
of it, because I think they fuck with canon. They don't really add too much. In my
They're weird,
opinion.
yeah. Like,
So like, and they get really goofy. 0 is the one with your man Trevor or something, isn't it? The prisoner, is his name Trevor? He's the guy that like
in Resident Evil 0.
Yeah, it's Resident Evil 0 about the
What's his name?
on the train. It's the
I know the one you're
medical
talking about. I
officer,
can't remember. I thought his name was Carlos, but that's Resident Evil 3, I think.
It's the one where he can keep shit like just like he has no pockets and stuff, and I mean that's what all the games, but it's that he just runs around and like he's storing this mass amount of stuff on him that's just like, how the fuck is he carrying that?
Yeah, that's part of the fun, I guess.
I think it's.
I mean, Village has that as well, like that they attach AKs.
They did. They went back to the fourth one. That's kind of. Let's just go into it then. And
I guess we're getting too excited over Resident Evil in general.
Like we'll talk about that in another time.
Stay tuned for the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4.
You can't make those announcements on here.
I
You
can't
can't say that as a guest. I think just kind of go into it, and like if you haven't played them, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna steamroll this, and just let's start by saying, what the fuck was that? No, it was good.
Yeah. So it follows on. Resident Evil Village is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7
Yeah, it's all
Biohazard.
about Ethan.
It follows Ethan Winters, yeah. It might be the most direct sequel any game in the series has ever been to a previous one.
Where the hell am I?
Well, yeah, you're not playing as some randomer. Like, they had this, again, if you're listening to this, you probably played them, but it's like, you play as Chris, you play as Jill, then you play as Leon, you play as Claire, then back to Jill, back to Leon, back. So it's got
Yeah,
kind of
it's the
4
same
or 5
characters that are
core
sort of dueling
characters.
between,
Yeah.
And then 7 came along and you play as Ethan Winters, who's this totally new character. He's just some dude. And at first, before I played 7, I just assumed, he's just some dude, to make it appeal more to...
What's the POV? He's meant to be just like an everyman.
Yeah, just some regular, guy. And then 8 follows on from his, experiences in 7, where he rescued his wife from this psychotic...
Molded, which is the new villain, and it's all creepy. And 7 introduced this new thing where it no longer is just physical horror. It's not like just biological like mutations. It's like
there's slasher
mind
horror.
fuckery.
There's
and
psychological horror.
Scanner stuff going on where like it gets into your body, but it gets into your brain, and it uses parts of your brain to manipulate you. So there's lots of like ghosts,
Squeakiness.
kind of
It's
like ghost
a
hallucinations.
lot of
and-
supernatural sort of... Well, not necessarily... It's Resident Evil has never really been a supernatural thing. It's always been about the science of, as opposed to like Silent Hill.
They're getting as close to supernatural as I think
Yeah,
they've
7 and
ever
8.
come.
8 especially,
58
there's
with
as
8.
close to supernatural as the series has gotten. And, or like of released games. But it always usually comes back to science.
Science that doesn't make sense, I think. With some,
It doesn't
like,
really make
this new
sense,
one
yeah.
where it's just like, they're werewolves. It's like, why though? I never got the whole...
Werewolves, vampires, ghosts.
I thought so in the new one, they've basically taken the last game, because they want to bring it back to Resident Evil's a scary game, and I think even like in the ad campaign for the 7th one, they were like we're the masters of survival horror. We're going to prove that to you right now with this new one. But the new one, number 8, I mean, is all about gothic horror. So 7, they went in, they did...
Grindhouse.
Yeah, it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's
It's very
like,
American style. You're in a Louisiana bayou.
quote-unquote inbred family kind of thing, that kind of... So it's a real, like, American horror, And this one is all about...
More European,
Gothic. Set
gothic.
in a fake European...
Classical?
country.
No, classic.
I'd say classic kind of gothic. You've got the
It's
monster mash
always
going
seemed a
on.
bit pretentious to me to say it, but I guess that's...
How dare you call me pretentious on my end?
No, I mean, like the actual term, like this idea. We're European, so I'm delighted that European is considered a classic, but I just...
Well, there's the classic movie monsters, and gothic comes from basically being like, because it's the gothic imagery of the castle, and they are the classics because they are the OG monster mash guys. You've got
The Mummy,
Frankensteins in this.
Frankenstein.
You've got vampires. You've got werewolves. You got Gilman. No mummy though. We have no mummies, but I don't know. Somehow the 7th or the 9th one will be set in Egypt.
Yeah,
And
that's
you'll
what
be
we need.
fighting a mummy or some shit like that.
So just a very quick background to what's happening in Village. We have Ethan, who is married, has a daughter, Rosemary Winters, and she
Rosemary Winters.
Winters.
A full
and-
dub came out there. Rosemary Winters and his Mrs. Mia, and he has to save them from evil Eastern Europeans. Oh wait, are they? They're Romanian, aren't they? Or
Well, they never
fake
specifically. It's like
Romania.
Resident Evil 4, where they never say where they are, but you know it's Spain. And this, you know it's Romania.
Yeah.
Well, I presume
Except everyone has
an American
American
accent,
accents.
and
which,
that we can talk about this a little. Well, we can talk about this now. One of my biggest issues with the game, all the characters have American accents.
I think they made that a stylistic choice, though, to be like, look, let's just go with it. It's really off-putting, though, because you have all these American characters in this village, and all the villagers are like, hey, dude, and hey, man. Well, they're not that bad, but they're still all
Yeah, you can tell they're American.
Ethan, why? It's just...
And like
shouldn't-
when I was first playing through it, I played the demo beforehand, and that just kept sticking out to me because again, Resident Evil 4 took place in Spain, and they made it really clear that it's in Spain. Characters speak Spanish. They even like the enemies would
But isn't
even
all the
announce what they're
Spanish
going to
just
do in
pure
Spanish.
bollocks, though?
Which, sorry?
Isn't all the Spanish pure bollocks, though?
Well,
like the
it's a
most-
Mexican dialect.
I thought it was just like they were saying stuff that was not relevant or not scary.
Oh no! Apparently they do. Like in Spanish, they'll say to you behind you or on your right. They'll tell or they'll talk to each other about what they're planning,
Right.
which is cool. It just so happened that it was in a Mexican dialect because obviously the localization was in America. So it's like if a game is set in Ireland and everyone has Australian accent or something. It's just a little silly.
That means I've been speaking some Spanish since playing Resident Evil 4 because you get so used to them saying it that you start quoting
Yeah.
it to people like as a joke who's played it. But it's yeah, exactly, because it's creepy. But
It
like,
is.
These poor Spanish people who I've probably been in passing and said that to, it's like behind you.
Yeah. It's but like they went to the I don't want to sound like it didn't ruin the game for me or anything. I just noticed that in 8 they speak with American accents, and at first I thought actually there's a plot reason for this. I assumed what the story was going to be is that this village was perhaps made by Umbrella.
Simulation.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was a simulation too. I just was trying to guess every fucking thing that was happening.
Yeah, I thought we were on some sort of like it was a village where the Umbrella Corporation, which is of course the evil corporation that makes the virus that makes the zombies, was behind it. They had made it years ago. Yeah, so I assumed that's what the plot was going to be. It's not. It's actually quite interesting because I was thinking back about the plot there, and I think it might mean that the villain in this, Mother Miranda, who is the one who kidnaps Ethan's...
You can't say any of the names without sounding like a dub. Mother Miranda. And,
Mother Miranda.
Ethan. Yeah.
Ethan.
She's not... Well, she's pretty malicious, but it's not like a world domination. It's
kind of a sad story, I
I
guess.
want my daughter back. Resident Evil is constantly depressing when you
Yeah,
stop
they're
and
almost
read
all
the
sad.
little notes of like, my best friend Jim has died. I remember when we were kids. Now I had to kill him. I'm going to die soon. It's like constantly. You read all the notes, which
especially
is
in the first
suicide
game.
notes.
There is a lot of sadness, and what I think is interesting is that the suggestion is that Mother Miranda is behind everything, that she is the instigator of the entire
from the
series
start,
because she met Oswald Spencer, who went on to found Umbrella. She showed him the Megamycete, which is this it's this giant fungal growth underground, which is where all
Looks
the
like a big
viruses that
baby.
create the zombies and the flowers, that's all where it comes from. I think how that's explained in the story, sorry, we're jumping around a bit, but the plot is that
Yeah, it doesn't
plot,
just
it's
go for it, yeah.
or free spirits, and the plot in Resident Evil has always been a bit wacko, but it's
If
how
you
it's
don't read it, you're fucked. Like,
Yeah,
if you
it
just
can
go like the thing is with these games, you really have to be careful, and so many people miss out. I think, including myself, where it's like you want to check because it's a survival horror. You want to collect as many items and get as many clues. If you just kind of bomb it, or if you take a wrong turn and you're into a cutscene, you're fucked. So you can't, like, especially if it's just go go go. So like in that last level when you're playing as Chris and you're going through his lab, if you go straight to the cage and think there might be something in here, you're into a cutscene, you're out of there, and you've missed all that backstory.
yeah.
That's the only way you're gonna get it if you go through everything and look at it, you know. And it's a great scene, like just looking at all that stuff, especially if you're a fan of the like the prior, you know.
It comes all together, yeah, where it's spooky even just looking at the photos and such.
The little things in the what are they, Kandu or Kadu or
Kadu, I think, or yeah, Kadu.
that was
It sounds that sounds very it has sort of a Cajun or Louisiana sound. Cajun, it just seems like a very
you can fry them up in the pan, you know, like it's a New Orleans delicacy.
yeah, but it sort of has that sort of what do you call it? It has that sort of American South sound to it, if you know what I mean. That sort of Caribbean sound. The name Kaiju.
We both find out that we're mispronouncing it. It's pronounced completely.
It's pronounced Kayo or something weird.
I thought that stuff was pretty disturbing because again, if you read the little notes, and if again, I feel like there's not going to be any structure with this. It's just going to be all over the place. But one of the grossest like Resident Evil villains, and there's a lot to be said at this series, is is it Monroe? Morrow. When you read his, he's gross anyway. He's a fish man, but his mutations are gross. Didn't understand a fucking word he said. Didn't have the subtitles on.
Yeah,
so there's this whole cutscene, and I'm like, who? I have to get out.
What's
what?
that? What's he upset about?
The fuck is wrong with
No, not a fucking clue. But when you read his notes, it's so gross because he's like, "Oh, I took a villager and I put a
Kudo. Yeah, I
Kudo
found.
in their tummy, and
the next day they were dead.
Yeah, just like, oh, this is some weird alien fucking.
What's interesting actually, and I found out,
shit.
If you beat the game and you unlock once you beat the game, you can unlock the like extras menu where you can buy stuff. You can buy concept art and all. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the concept art, they actually give you some lore about different characters and all. That was really cool. Like they explain Moreau, his back, he has all these growths on his back. That's actually his brain.
Oh, cool.
So he has actually the biggest brain out of the four. There are 4 lords that serve Mother Miranda, and Moreau is the most hapless and the sort of like everyone hates him and everyone treats him really badly. But he apparently has the biggest brain. He's the smartest of them all, but everyone just hates him.
Yeah, because he's ugly and he's a bitch. I don't know. It's you know what's really, really funny is the shade that she gives him, Mother Miranda, in her lab. That made me laugh out loud. Like, you go through her 4 books of her children, so there's 4 enemies. It's like every Resident Evil game where it's
there's like 4 lieutenants, like in most games nowadays.
You've got to beat all them, and you're basically climbing the ladder to the top. But in her lab, when you're playing as Chris, the bit I mentioned a minute ago, you're looking through each of these bosses that you've defeated. But you go to his, and she's even written in the journal, no, it wasn't really a successful experiment. Not very smart, not creative.
Yeah, he's just kind of. It's sad, but funny as well.
It's kind of hilarious because he's a fucking evil human being. They're all pretty. I mean, they're all victims, but like, they're
definitely complicit. Eventually,
up.
Like they need to be put down. I guess that they are dangerous.
Well, they're like conspirators because they.
And there's been a series of murders. They mention in some of the Lady D or Lady Dimitrescu, the vampire, the tall vampire lady, as the internet says, is
the tall woman.
There you go.
We need to talk a whole thing about her and get to the bottom of that.
There's a lot of like a spate of murders that have been linked to her since like the 50s. So like they've been doing bad things for a very long time.
They're pretty bad people. No matter what happened to them. Because of Mother Miranda. I'll just call her Miranda because it sounds a bit less formal.
Right.
But let's talk about each of them then, will we?
Sure, yeah. You can do them in order, will we? Or that they arrive in
let's go in order. Well, I like the second one so much, but no, let's go in order.
Well, we save the best for last.
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll figure it out. Let's talk about Dimitrescu first.
Lady D, yeah. So Lady D or Dimitrescu is interesting.
That's the word that you use when you really don't know what to say.
I have some legitimate nerdy reasons, and then I have some like literal nerdy. This just shows how much of a nerd I am. Her surname Dimitrescu is pronounced Dimitrescu, and it sounds kind of French to me. The way it's spelled is the Romanian spelling of a Greek name. For some reason, I think it's interesting that they're just mashing together all different types of European. There we go. Yeah, high quality information you're getting here, or analysis. What I think is interesting as well is her design. How she was marketed in the game. She was marketed when I played this game originally, or I played the demo. What I assumed was going to happen is it would take place initially in. First of all, it would start in America. I thought.
Did you think she was Jack? Not like Jack, but like the new Jack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I assumed what I assumed was going to happen was it would start in America. It doesn't in the game, and that Ethan has to go to Europe, quote unquote, somewhere in Europe, to rescue his daughter, and that you would spend the first while of the game in the village, and there will be some sort of head of the village. This sounds very familiar for anyone who knows, of course, to another Resident Evil game.
Tall people.
Tall people as well.
Tall people should be feared.
And then eventually you would, let's say, get past this person, like the head of the village, and then move on to the castle, where most of the game, or even the end of the game, would take place. And Dimitrescu would be the villain of the entire game. Because the marketing seemed to give off that impression.
She was all over the marketing.
Yeah.
And it was before people went, forgive the pun, tits up over.
It was very good marketing. Like
That's terrible. It was good marketing, but because
like she's a very unique character. Like, it's a very different design than almost all of Resident Evil's. Like,
I hated her final form.
Yeah, she actually goes out of the game shockingly quickly.
She's the first boss.
Like, yeah, she literally, if you're not playing around, like not looking, even on your first playthrough, if you're not being totally forensic with looking for collectibles or looking around, you can like totally defeat her and she's gone within the first like 2 hours of playing the game, and that's it.
Like,
it's pretty mad.
She has,
and her final form was pretty disappointing. I was like, oh, I liked how it ended. I like that she turns into a dragon, which makes sense with the vampire connection, but it's just kind of...
I thought it was too much. I thought it was too much too soon, and it gave me really bad flashbacks to Resident Evil 6.
It's a bit actiony. It's a bit
into a dinosaur
over the top
at the end of it, you know?
Yeah.
A bit much for the first one.
Because her castle is very... I actually really like so the four lords all have four very separate gameplay styles in addition to the different designs. And Dimitrescu is very similar to the original trilogy and to Resident Evil 7, where it's this interconnected world. There's someone stalking you. Yeah. Dimitrescu stalks you and her three daughters.
They've been doing that of that way of like, you're going to wander around the area and you have to hide because they're constantly on the move. They've done it with the remake. They've done it with the classics, but let's just talk about the remakes. They did it with Resident Evil 2 with Mr. X. They did it with Resident Evil 3 with Nemesis, which is the whole point of that game. But then they did it with Jack, like a lot. For that game.
In
that was
7,
a lot of the first part of 7. But
and I guess to a certain extent they do it with Marguerite as well in the second house. She's sort of looking around. Now she's not hunting you.
Much as
she's
Jack.
More like a security camera type thing as opposed to actively looking for you.
Yeah, well, Jack is like he'll walk down a hall, and I think the marketing really did, in my opinion, or my interpretation of it was going to be, it's going to be a lot in the castle, and she is the new Jack, and she's going to, you'll defeat her, and she'll come back, and you'll defeat her again, and she'll come back, and then you go, but no, that wasn't it at all. And even the moments when she's stalking really didn't have as much of an impact as the Jack stuff did, because it's a tighter space. And
yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, this is the fourth time now, as you said, because Resident Evil 7 did this, and like you said, some certain games beforehand had done it, but in the new era of Resident Evil, the post, RE6 era, in Resident Evil 7, Jack does it. In Resident Evil 2, Mr. X does it, which I personally think is where it's done the best. Or the most frightening. Now 2 was the first of the remakes, like the new era that I played.
I think 2 did it the longest as well, as in for like from
for the entire second middle of the game you're being stalked. Yeah,
like he comes back a lot now, and sure, the third one is so short.
Yeah,
Nemesis
it's short enough, and Nemesis,
but not often,
and it's pretty scripted. Now Nemesis is slightly different, where he's way more aggressive than in the other games. The others are more like a slow, like a Michael Myers style sort of like march towards you. Whereas, I was wondering when I realized that Dimitrescu, because I went media blackout on this game, so I didn't look at any of I looked at some of the trailers and that was it. I didn't know that she stalked you, and when I realized that she was, it is scary at first.
I only saw the first trailer as well, and that was enough. I didn't actually really like the first trailer. I was like, the fucking werewolves, this is going to be shit.
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. Yeah.
I was going to play it either way though, but when the final kind of bit of the ad is her looking in the camera and basically being like,
Ethan Winters.
Hello, Ethan. Bob. It just seems so much like the Uncle Jack thing, or Jack. I keep saying Uncle Jack because of Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah,
the head of the Nazis. But when he says the whole welcome to the family, and that's how that trailer ends. That's just what I assumed, but really not the case. I was playing this with my brother, who had completed it first, and I'm constantly guessing everything when he's there. I don't want the answer. I'm just guessing it so I can seem smart later on. when I'm getting stalked by her in the castle, you hear her high heels going around the castle. I think somebody should make a mod of 7. So for Jack, you can just hear high heels constantly around the place.
Oh, but it's the RE engine that they all run on is a very moddable engine. So people have done all sorts of things. They've turned her into Thomas the Tank Engine.
I'm sure
done
they've
slightly
turned her
darker
into,
things.
Oh, let's talk about that for a minute. People's weird obsession. I don't get it at all. It's like people on the internet haven't seen a woman before, and it's really
I don't know. I think it's funny, but
it's funny when it's wholesome. But if people's whole thing is just like the big woman, big tits, it's just
it's
on.
very interesting. Is
Yeah.
what I'll say. I'll be very diplomatic about it and say very interesting.
That's the
how
weak
people have
answer.
reacted.
That's weak sauce of an answer. Weak sauce of an answer.
Yeah, but
That's the bitch answer.
I can't burn too many bridges this early into my podcasting career. I don't want to be.
It's my whole third podcast.
But we won't get bogged down on that.
Disgraceful.
It's a disgrace. What is a disgrace is I did feel that it's kind of a shame that Dimitrescu's castle, once you leave it, that's it. You're not going back.
You can go back in to get the treasures, and that's about it. But like, what did you think of the side villains of this? The quote unquote like the ghouls. Because they play a big part in the castle. There's the bat. So like, just to break it down, the go-to instead of a zombie would be a werewolf in this, or the molded of the 7 is now a werewolf, which they call a lichen.
A lichen, yeah.
Never explained why they're werewolves. It's just what happens when you put the
megamycete. Yeah, I think they just explain that it just so happens that the megamycete just happens to turn people. If you're not a chosen one, quote unquote, it turns you into a lichen.
I kind of wish they had explained a bit more that like
it just so they explain
mixed
that
with a dog or something.
They give they do give scientific explanations like they do in all the Resident Evil games. I'm sure they're not true, or they're science that's taken to the next level where theoretical. And the explanation is just that it just so happens that they all turned into this specific strand of virus turns you into creatures that happen to be very gothic, like vampires.
Maybe
werewolves.
they just realized that we're in Europe. You know?
Yeah, it just so happens that
they're called lichens in the story though, and I think that kind of rubbed. I thought they were great, shooting them in the head, blowing their heads off. There's something
no silver bullets.
That's like there's something with these games that they have some of the most satisfying death animations. So when you can blow somebody's head clean off with a shotgun, that sounds pretty sadomasochist, but no, like
I know
it's like the 4th one did it, and it was great.
You're putting them out of their misery, so I wouldn't feel bad.
It's a justice. It's
exactly.
Thing.
No, am I not
the
merciful?
Remakes did it well, like the molded and the 7 did it with the molded, and the remakes did it with the zombies. But really irritating that they were a great villain. The lichens, really cool. There was this really irritating thing that there's these ghoul characters that are basically just like they needed another villain in it, like a side villain, like that's reoccurring. That they're just, I thought they were so bad. They're these little ghouls. They come out of the basement in the castle. Or
what's interesting,
so weak.
Again, that this is partly the concept art where they explain that all the characters in Dimitrescu's castle are all women.
Yeah,
they're all zombies.
All the maids,
they're all women.
Everything, yeah.
I think the men are just used for food, and then women.
The daughters are cool. That was. I thought they would be much bigger than they were.
The which?
The daughters.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed at how quickly you can get through them. They're not much. Yeah. They're not really characters.
No, I thought they were. Again, I think it's not on the game though. It's more on our interpretation.
Yeah,
of, like probably thought that they were going to be bosses to themselves.
I would have thought that. Yeah, they would be the lieutenants, and Dimitrescu would be the final boss. But Dimitrescu is the lieutenant, and they're just 3 very minor. They're not even really mini boss. Well, I suppose they're mini boss, but they're not that difficult to fight.
They're little, not even like they're like little cutscenes, not cutscenes, but they're like in a way
little
like,
rooms where you fight them.
Yeah.
They're interesting though. It's
fun,
it's all very interesting. Imagery.
It's a very fun game. Like it's not a very hard game, I don't think either, and it's like extremely. I don't play games on hard mode because I'm shit at games. So like I was playing it normal, but like very rarely died. If I died at one point, the most it was the puzzle. When you're crossing the lake or like the dam, I was so bad at that. Like I just constantly was fucking up my timing. But it's genuinely a really fun game. So even all these little side things, there's a lot of side stuff that you could miss. Like lots of like fight a giant now or fight a giant dog and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
That was
it's a lot
of fun.
like stuff like the God of War, the new God of War, or like
Still
the
haven't
Dark
finished
Souls
that.
games where there's lots of. You're still playing it?
Yeah, still haven't. I had to stop. It kind of gives me a headache. It's a good game, the new God of War, but it's not like.
Yeah, it's 7 or Village feels like that in the sense like there are things like that where you'll go back to an area and suddenly there's a mini boss there that you can fight.
And you can discover new things, and it's
Yeah,
not open world though.
It's not open world, but it's
You know.
open ended
Yeah.
to a certain extent. I don't think any Resident Evil game has ever really been open world. Unless
Seven was open ended in the sense that and that's what I liked about Village is that with all the Resident Evil games or a lot of them, there's a lot of backtracking that I need to go back here to get the key, and if I go all the way back here, I'll get an extra trophy or I'll get a treasure to sell. Seven was really good for being like you're in a limited space, and only up until a certain point of the game you can go all the way back if you wanted to. This one was better for it because you're a whole village. There's parts that you say that are cut off, like the castle. You can just wander around this whole village and just collect as much stuff as you want. And
the village is a character in itself.
Yeah.
Like it's a like the four lords are connected by the eponymous village, and as you go through the game, you unlock more of the village, and new enemies are introduced, and you go to new parts. Like you come back, like the game starts in the village and it ends in the village. And it's interesting how diverse they can make it because it's all very bleak and sort of depressing.
I loved how they finally kind of, and this is one thing that I said with the remakes, they want to make them scary again and they want to update them. So you've got to be more realistic than back in the 90s and in the 2000s when they were like, these are games that's fine, but there's such cartoony elements. And I don't mean he punched a boulder or he jumped through a window. I'm talking about like the design and the costumes where it's like the Japanese game designers kind of interpretation of like an American Spy or stuff like that, where it's just like so outlandish.
It's an interesting, like it's a cool sort of depiction, but it is very.
I think
that
it takes you out of it if you're going to be scared. So when they did the village, there's people with paddy caps and everything, but there is like tractors and gas canisters and jeeps and modern technology is like, and wheelie bins and stuff like that. It's spread around. It's not like 4 where it's just like you've gone back in time.
Gone back to the 15th century or something. Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the monks thing. That's because like they're developed.
Yeah, like even the village at the start
the
of
village
4
is
very
about. Yeah. So it was nice to get
village feels like it's a poorer sort of more, I shouldn't say backward, but more primitive like area, but it's still nowadays like they have it's not like you're running around on horses.
I could believe that there's a place like that.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
probably. Yeah,
I mean, it was pretty, maybe not the American accents, but I could believe there's a place like that, you know?
yeah.
But what did you think of those side villains though, like the ghouls? I mean, the bats were cool.
I thought the bats were. I love the sort of, especially when they introduced the bats, and it's very gothic. Like you're at the top of the castle and you're looking down. I think, just a very quick aside, it's very interesting that you go into the castle during the day, like very early morning. I thought that was quite interesting.
I thought it got better because this game has this thing, and I'll talk about it more with my favorite part of the game. But anytime you go anywhere, it's like, it's fine. It's daylight. Most of the game is in daylight. It's like, no. You have to, you're going down an elevator.
Yeah.
You're going somewhere, it's just like, do I really have to go like deep down into the earth? So it's like you're going into cellars or like you're going up into an attic and you're fucked because it's like, you know, it's daylight, it's fine. It's like, no, you're going deep into this. That cellar bit I thought in the castle was great.
Yeah.
So
the blood one,
the dungeon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some great art direction.
I thought it was scary. I just thought there was a load of them. It was like the bit with the molded in the 7 where you're like through the furnace room or something, and they all start coming out of the walls. This one, they all start coming out of the cages. All these servants, all the maids, and they're all basically ghouls. And it's like, you're fucked. You know, you've got to run out of there. You know.
I don't know how Ethan doesn't just shoot himself at the terror that he's put through.
It would look really fucking morbid in POV, putting the gun into your mouth.
Yeah, I guess that that's obviously the, you know, how much he, you know, cares for his daughter, which I guess plays into the story.
I like. I remember I made fun of the character of Ethan a lot in the game, but I like Ethan. I thought he was he's a good kind of connection. There's some very funny moments between him and Chris in this one where he's like, "Sure, you are, Ethan." When he's like, "I'll kill that bitch,"
the way Chris Redfield, who goes back, obviously he was in the first Resident Evil. He's a staple.
His full name, his proper title.
He's a staple of the series, but and he's always been a great, good guy. But in this game, I kind of felt like he comes off as really awful, like terrible.
Yeah, I think to a
Like he's a good
certain
guy,
degree,
like
he's very
contrary to the
misguided,
marketing. Like he.
I think I liked how they I mean, it was quick and it was cheesy, but the whole bit when he lights a cigarette and he's like, "Whoa, when does this end?"
God damn it, when does it end?
What's that, sir? The mission?
All of it.
Your man on the phone, he's like, "Oh, when will what end?" It's like, "Oh, when will all this end?" It's been like this since 2017. I kind of wanted it to be like, "What the fuck are you talking about 2017? You've been doing this since the 90s," because I think it's kept up in its canon.
Yeah,
it's
content. Yeah, like the first one takes place in 1998, even though it's from 96. But like this takes place in 2021. It takes place in February 2021.
Yeah, so they should be like, his character should probably just be like, "Oh my god, I've been doing this for so fucking long." That's just like so.
I feel sorry for
depressing,
Chris. Yeah,
you know?
like he just seems like he's a very heroic character in the sense that he's given up his life to just.
He's not like the Leon character.
Leon seems always that he's being dragged into these things.
He's kind of like the John McClane, where he's like, "Not again,"
Yeah.
This weird shit follows me around. Chris has to seek it out.
Yeah.
Since the first and onward, he seeks it out. And
yeah,
that's
like
his
Leon
job.
has always been the more not comedic to a certain extent, but the more cool sort of you'll have to do better than that attitude and the sort of the cool guy.
He's the action hero.
Yeah,
Like,
whereas Chris is the more sort of like stoic, like I'm going out here, I'm going to take these people down.
That's why I think there's such a fan base for Leon, because he has all the quips and he is the John McClane. I mean, I only thought of that comparison now, but I think it's probably a good one because it's so like, this is not like I'm going to go protect the president's daughter or rescue her. I didn't know there was going to be weird shit like the last time.
Resident Evil 4 is based on like there's lots of like very similar like motifs that are in Die Hard and such. Like it's a very he probably was based on him, or he's based on.
I think you're just an amalgamation of that kind of like
that
American
action hero type thing that Chris isn't.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
And Ethan certainly isn't. Ethan in this game, in 7, I guess an issue I had with Ethan was he never really seemed to be too
capable.
Yeah, or like stressed about what was going on, or like no, he never seemed to react that much. Whereas in this game, he's way more like horrified.
I think it's a matter of changing as well. 7 was new ground, so it's new format of like, let's make him more scared. I think 7 did do a good job though, where it's like he is very weirded out and he's doing the best kind of
trying to be cool about it.
He's trying to save his wife and everything while it's going
on.
The
sort of like
that's pretty much what like I feel. But there is really good moments where he does freak out, and especially the dinner table. And that's 7, but this one, they get his scare kind of his scared mentality a lot better. He's used to it, but he's still just like this moment in the game where it's kind of funny because he's just like, I can't believe this shit's happening again. But it's like you can really hear it in his voice, so he's just like, oh god, not again.
Ethan, you have to fix her.
What the hell is this?
Yeah, like they lampshade. Like he realizes like what the fuck is going on? Like it's happening all over again. Why? And he's just like, you can hear it in his voice, the sort of bitter anger and like sadness. He's like, oh
fuck this!
I can't believe this is happening.
I probably talked. Sorry, just back to the ghouls. I still have a rant about the ghouls.
Oh, so yeah, go for it.
They were fine, except they were used too much. I know there was budgetary constraints, and I'll bring that up when we talk about the other kind of levels. But not being able to blow their heads off was one of the most irritating things ever. And I know they probably wanted it to be like a bullet sponge kind of thing of like they're different than the Lycans, but it just seemed like a bad gameplay choice to be like a big fucking 6-foot werewolf, and he's really fast and it'll fuck you up, but I can blow its head off. But a skeleton, basically, no,
yeah,
it's impossible.
They felt a lot like fodder, and also, I do think they're a massive improvement on the molded though. I think the molded kind of sucked.
I love the molded. I hated the big fat ones.
I hated that all they had was molded. That did kind of bother me. I don't think the molded are that scary. They can be when they jump up on you, but that's not... Just their design isn't that scary. Now, I don't think the zombies... I think they look pretty horrific, but not in a scary way. Just in a, I don't want to touch that.
Didn't find the Lycans scary though either, you know?
No, I actually found the Lycans way more annoying. Like whenever they grabbed me or something, I was like really angry.
That they were just too satisfying to kill. They were like the villagers and stuff. Anything in 4, you could just shoot it in the head.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying. But the zombies were cool. The remakes made them far too hard to kill. Very annoying at points, but still really impressive to be like, they're not just fodder, like you said.
Yeah.
It's not like, this isn't Nazi zombies. This is very difficult to do. Like,
Yeah, like sometimes it's better to just ignore the enemies and just run away from them because
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
need to say.
But I have a bad habit of being
Yeah,
like, no, there
8
must
and
be
less so,
something,
but
you
in
know?
the remakes in the other games, although in this you can run past a lot of enemies.
Yeah. No, a lot of it, I think, like the in the factory, Heisenberg's factory, just the
Those enemies.
let's talk about him then, will we?
Yeah, and then we
Okay.
can finish in the.
Is there anything else to say about the castle? Not really.
I will say just on the architecture of the castle, it wasn't as open as I thought it would be. Like physically open, like spatially open. A lot of it's quite
Relatively-
claustrophobic.
Relatively just like
It's quite small. You don't
connecting
explore the whole
rooms.
castle.
Kind of like straight lines that you
Yeah.
kind of run through a series of rooms, you know?
Yeah, it gives off a great Castlevania vibe, but it's not as open.
Oh
as
my god, he said it. Brr, fucking send off alarms because you mentioned Castlevania. A bunch of confetti will come down from the ceiling now.
Ooh, Castlevania and Sonic in a Resident
Oh
Evil
my god,
podcast.
in one
Amazing.
thing, I'm gonna fucking calm.
Oh god. He said it, not me. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like these aren't issues; they're just things I noticed. I'm like, oh, this isn't.
I don't really have much complaints for this. What I'm saying now is kind of like,
Yeah, my biggest
yeah, it
letdown
would
with
be
the
kinda
castle.
better, but I don't really have much. This is a pretty perfect game in my mind. It's one of my favorite Resident Evil so far.
Yeah, I think like just because we were talking about Moreau earlier, just really quickly, I think it that's a lot more puzzly, I guess, compared to.
Oh, let's talk about Monroe then, because you know what, we're gonna leave the second one to last. We're gonna skip to the third one, and Monroe's really short as well.
Yeah, it's relatively short. It's mostly just platforming and like.
I thought it was a lot of fun though.
Although it's before you get to Moreau, actually, the part that I loved the most was the giant wolf that attacks you at the start, and you have to sneak through the buildings to get past it. Do
The
you
guy
remember
with the hammer. What was his name again? Yeah.
Oh well, this is the as soon as you're in the middle central where the merchant is. We can talk about the merchant at the end. You're in the central zone, and then you go through the door to go to Moreau, and then a giant black wolf just jumps up and grabs you.
Oh yeah, it's the one on 4 legs though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the.
there's a few of them.
But yeah, there's a second
Yeah.
one which I never actually found. I need to go back and get it.
It's when you go. I can't remember any of the characters' names.
It's after
but
Moreau. You go back to where Moreau is, isn't it?
you can go back to. Well, I thought there was a few of them throughout the game, isn't there? Like
I don't know. I only know that first one.
it's the one that has like a prickled kind of back, and
Yeah, it has.
I know it does, because if you go back to the woman that first lets you into her house,
Yeah.
in the start, if you go back, you can get like a treasure there. There's one in the field, but it's filled with spikes. So when you're in the field, you'll see spikes, like not spikes in its back, like literal somebody has stabbed it a bunch of times with spears. So if you look in the cornfield, you'll see all these spikes sticking out of the cornfield, but you won't see it. So it's like Jaws almost, you know, you see it kind of walking around. So you kill that and you'll get something, you know.
I'll have to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, I need to. There's a few things I'm surprised the amount of stuff I seem to have missed, which is really cool to go back and.
Because I was with my brother, he just kept telling me, go back and do this and go
Oh,
back and
right,
do that.
yeah, yeah.
So it was good because I wasn't going to be like, I am going to replay it, but like when
The
I have
plot-
the time
yeah.
to do it, I'll just go back and like I just like doing it within the first playthrough of the game if I'm not, you know, if I have the time, you know, because you're
Yeah.
getting shit that you can sell or use or more, you know, ammo or whatever.
Yeah, that's about that wolf. When you start that level, like to really highlight how different the 4 areas are, I thought the pacing for the most part was actually really good.
I finished it over like a week, wouldn't play it until the night. I thought pacing was really, really good. Like,
Yeah.
other than the nights that I was like, I could fucking have a headache, you know. That's irrelevant though, but like that was the only thing preventing me from the games. Like the pacing was perfect. It was literally on my end, just being like, ah man, my fucking head is fried. And it's not that the game was giving me a headache like other games have in the past. It genuinely was just like, this is flowing really, really well. Like, and it is one of those games, like every other game that you said, is like you gotta take down a certain amount of like enemies, like lieutenants, to get to the top. It's never boring with Resident Evil though. It's always something different, you know what I mean?
Like the first the Demetresque's area is, like I said, it's like a puzzle. It's a close. It's an interconnected world. The second we'll talk about at the end. We were hyping up the second, but it's all worth all the hype.
So good. So good.
The third is Moreau's, which, as I said, starts off with the wolf basically stalking you, and you're just hiding in these buildings, and it's like a hunt, and you're hunting each other.
Then goes into the underground, into like the dam, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
windmills?
there's a bit of combat. There's a bit of, it's mostly pretty linear, and then you just go around, get one or two items, and then you get the boat, and you go out onto this sort of dam, and you just need to jump across. It's more like a puzzle.
Then you have a boss fight with him. I have a few things to say about that because
I died on this area on my first playthrough. If you didn't count the deaths to Moreau, like just like the one hit kills because you did the puzzle wrong or you did such and such wrong, I only died once, and it was to Miranda at the very end.
yeah, that was very similar to my one as well, that it was Miranda a lot of times at the end, but not like a ridiculous amount, because there's been games where I've played it to the point where I'm like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
But no, that was genuinely entertaining, but I died a lot with just the puzzle of Monroe's puzzle. Like, that game, like, side note, the opening in this game is fucking amazing. So it's this animation like Coraline.
Oh yeah, the actual
Oh, it was so good. I thought it was a different game when I was first playing. I was like, what the fuck is this? Because it was like that game Little Nightmares. It reminded me a lot of
it's
Little
unlike
Nightmares.
anything. It's like it's also like what's he call it? It's a very weird reference. The Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah. My brother turned to me and said that when he was like, "Oh, it's just Deathly Hallows." You know, it's so much like
It's
that.
very unlike anything, but it's really cool. It's
It
like,
looks great. Like, it really looks.
yeah,
it looks
and it
interesting.
really gets into you that this is a more mythological or more like supernatural. Again, it's not. It's all science based still, but it's
what
more.
it is like a fairy tale.
Yeah,
book,
it's a lot
basically
more
telling
like, and it
you-
ties into
yeah.
the story at the very end. It's
Yeah, I'd love that anyway. I thought that was so cool.
when I saw that, because I was watching the ending and I thought, oh, that's it, and then the actual ending comes on. I'm like, oh, that's
That was real bitter.
That's good.
We'll talk about that at the end. But like, when the fish came out, because it's a fairy tale book basically presenting all the bad guys in like, it's like a classic. Like, it's kind of a cliche, but I always enjoy, you know, when they
yeah.
explain the lore ahead of stuff.
Then the Fish King appeared and offered one of his many fins.
When the fish jumped out, I was like, oh, there's going to be a giant fish in this game. And I have a real issue with them because there's way too many of them in the Resident Evil games, where it's a staple, to the point where I played The Evil Within. Not a good game, the first one, made by
Shinji Mikami, yeah.
the guy, isn't he made the fourth Resident Evil?
Yeah, he made the first four, yeah. Well, sorry, he was the series producer, so he's the father of Resident Evil.
Evil Within, not a very good game though. Maybe I'll go back and play it more, but I heard the second one was good. I never played it, but stopped playing that game when I was getting fed up with it. It was too much like Resident Evil 4, but when it got to the point where there was a giant fish, I was like, okay, that's me out. I'm not fucking continuing this. Way too much of them in the whole Resident Evils. People have this big fucking hard-on fucking fanboy thing over the guy in the fourth one, the fish.
Delago. Yeah.
What the fuck is with that? He was
I love
fine. He
Delago.
was just a giant fish, though.
But I love the one in 1 and the one in 4. The one in 1 is horrifying, the giant shark, zombie shark.
Give me the guy from House of the Dead 2. With the fucno,
Hydrophant, I think
yeah.
his name is.
Yeah.
With the beating heart. Yeah, he's amphibian, I guess, but...
Oh, gee.
No, I know what you mean. I don't have an issue with it, but I know what you mean. I think in Resident Evil 1 there's the shark, Resident Evil 2 is the crocodile, Resident Evil 3 I'm not sure, 4 has Delago, 5 has Irving when he transforms, 6 does as well actually, 7 doesn't, I don't think, 8
No.
does.
6, a lot of that has been not repressed, but like I've forgotten, because there's
Yeah.
so much shit in that game. And I don't mean shit, well, it's a bad game, but like there's
Invisible
just
Sharks.
so
I haven't
much
played it
in that
myself,
game.
but
I must replay it actually. I don't really want to, but I'll probably.
you never
do it
know.
for
Like,
the sake of science, you know.
but anyways, we won't get bogged down in 6. We're here to talk
yeah,
about
that's a whole fucking other story. That's a whole other rant. I
Um,
thought your man was changed my opinion of it though. Like fish, you know.
Yeah, they can be.
Fish, I'm okay with. I find fish scary. I've said this on the podcast before. Not actual fish. I'm not scared of like fucking.
Yeah, like the
cod,
thalassophobia,
goldfish.
that thing where like the fear of something big down in the water with you.
Yeah, and then the like I don't like bugs. I fucking hate bugs. But like the insect kind of life, or the bottom kind of dwelling fish, like the the parasite stuff and like
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
a bit in the game
underwater there are lots of real life, very creepy and disturbing.
real life Resident Evil shit, you know. But like when he opened in the game, there's a bit that like Monroe is a very gross character, but when you open up the control panel,
Stinks.
Yeah, and all the stuff, the
there's
goo,
like
and
all
all
these
the worms.
fucking worms and all these water worms, and what are they called? They have big fucking teeth, real things now.
Eels? No,
No. If there was a fucking bunch of eagles in there, that's almost comical. They spring out like fucking what's the peanut brittle thing in SpongeBob, the snakes in a can.
Yeah. I'm trying to think
Did
of
I
what
begin
you
with
think.
a C,
Slow,
did we?
not slow. Leeches,
No, they're like worms with they have
bobbit
pincers.
worms and stuff.
They've got 2 teeth in the top, 2 teeth on the bottom. They're like
Not the sand striker, is it? Or
I'm gonna look this up, man.
yeah,
I gotta
that's,
look this up. Monroe, though, I think just I'll leave this in. Monroe changed my opinion on them, though. But like that bit really fucking grossed me out. Though, whatever they are, I'm gonna find out what they are now.
yeah. It plays
you
up to a
know.
lot of the common phobias, I guess, that you have. Like it was a good. It's a short enough section as well. The game itself is pretty short. You can beat it in less than 3 hours. Like it's a trophy beating in less than 3 hours. So I think it flows well enough. You do fight Moreau on land after that. The boss fight's fine. It's the usual Resident Evil fare. You just shoot him a lot. And then you clear Moreau and you move on to Heisenberg, who is...
Sorry, is it a ragworm? It might be a rag. I'm looking up here. I think it's a ragworm. There's. Oh man.
Are you sure it's not the Bobbit worm?
The what worm?
Bobbit, Bobbit, or the Sand Striker.
Well,
Now, they
I
don't
look
have
up
a brain.
Sandworm is coming up here. Man, I regret looking this up. So
Sand
much.
Strikers are scary. They don't have eyes or a brain. They just react to movement and they just eat it.
That is some fucking nightmare.
Yeah, and they can be up to like 15 feet long that you don't see.
Oh, no, that's not it. But this is equally unpleasant. Anyway.
Anyway, on
I'm
that
gonna put
bombshell.
this down. That is like that to me. Really fucking. That was creepy. Like that whole like just because it was icky, you know. That
Yeah.
was kind of gross. But Monroe himself, you read all of his documents and he's gross. But it was a really fun puzzle. Now, this is something my brother said about that level that feels really apparent. The budget was cut, and it hurt that level the most. Or they just didn't have the budget to do what they wanted to do. And supposedly, there was meant to be mermen in that level.
Oh, really?
I am never going to see a merman. Ever.
Dude would be thankful. Those things are terrifying.
If that was the case, that would have scared the shit out of me. I fucking hate mermen. I don't know if you've ever seen Cabin in the Woods. The merman thing in that was really fucking, like, really got to me. Especially because he kills, like, a very beloved character in that, you know.
Will I take my chance to Google this?
Yeah, no, look it up. I thought you'd at least seen the kill count or something, but when he kills, who is it, Bradley Walsh, is it? Or, no, not Bradley Walsh. What the fuck am I talking about? The chase guy?
Oh, that's a very... Because there's mermen in Castlevania, but they're a little more actual mermen. Like, they just look like people with fish heads, and it's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, he kills the merman kills Bradley Whitford in it, and it's like a really kind of like it's funny, but it's still fucked up. But if they had
Oh,
put-
yeah, I see what you mean.
if they had put mermen in it, I genuinely would have been creeped out by that. Or like I like all the Cthulhu kind of stuff, so fish people, Dagon, all that weird shit is kind of cool. So
Yeah, the stuff
people
that sort
with
of breaks
fish
your
heads
brain a
and
bit.
everything, but
Yeah.
what they could have at least done, because there's no side villains in this except a few werewolves in like very out of place. I thought the werewolves just to be in a little kind of cave because it seems
Yeah,
like,
I thought that was weird. Yeah, I thought Heisenberg was the one behind all the
Yeah.
lichens, but Moreau apparently. That I now that you say it, yeah, that probably would have made sense for mermen to be in there or something.
or at least change the lichens for the particular area to have barnacles on them.
Yeah,
or
to be
something.
infected with the weird goo. That,
Yeah. Or I wanted to see
Or have worms coming out of them.
at least the ghouls covered in barnacles.
Yeah,
But just give me the Davy Jones villains from parts. Let me
yeah.
shoot some
Even
of them,
even
you know?
in real life, in the development of the game, Moreau lost out completely.
Yeah. He was good though. He was good. I should have fucking watched him with the subtitles on though. I hadn't a fucking clue like about what he was saying, but it was quick, you know. So, do you have anything else to say about him? Or?
I don't know. his boss fight's fine. I just a very quick. The only thing I will say, I think his design reminds me a lot of Lisa Trevor.
Oh yeah. I thought so. When he's turning, so he's big fish, and then he's back into man, and then he turns into weird big fish half man thing. But
Yeah.
the bit when he's the in between and he's talking,
to you. I looked at that
So
and I thought
much
this is
like,
100% Lisa. In fact, what I thought was going to happen was they were going to make a connection to that and be like, oh, this is the same.
I think there is one unspokenly though, because they're both in kind of constant pain in a way.
Yeah.
I got that vibe that they were.
Like, I
the
wouldn't-
Lisa Trevor thing is one of the most
Horrific.
gross
Oh
things
yeah,
they've
it's
done.
really like, for anyone who's not aware, I actually don't want to give her story away on the podcast, but
We'll leave it for the other.
yeah, she's from the first
Resident
Resident Evil, the remake of the first Resident Evil, but her design in that and Moreau's in this were so similar that, and again, at this point, I still thought that they were doing the whole Umbrella made this city thing or village thing, so I thought, oh, there's going to be a huge connection here, and it's all going to link back to the first game. It still could in Resident Evil 9, I guess, and 8 does do a lot to bridge them, but when I saw that, I thought that was cool that they're making that connection. Cool in the sense of like a fanboy way. It's obviously horrifying and disgusting, but like tendrils not coming out of your back.
Yeah,
it's
hunched over and just constant. Like,
they're different types of horror. Yeah, like
they
the
saw
first one is more like
the agony of
yeah,
this thing. You know,
like 3 is like Moreau is like body horror. The second, we'll talk about that at the end, is more like psychological horror. The first,
sorry, just not. I didn't mean to cut you off. I completely forgot to mention this. We're talking villain by villain. What did you think of the whole setup of that the daughter had been cut up?
oh yeah, that's why we're going after the 4 villains. Yeah,
You're collecting. It is her physically though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's her legs, her head.
Look, we've already spoiled the game. Evelyn, who is the bad guy of 7, who I loved, thought that was really fucking disturbing and scary when she's the old woman.
Yeah, why does everyone hate me? It's really uncomfortable.
And then her singing and teleporting, and so basically Evelyn was made from the Megamycete, and Rose is basically
like
an offshoot of Evelyn, made by Ethan because
he died in 7.
Yeah,
but because by the time he had already gotten into the Baker estate, he was so infected and like by the mold that it actually just revived him, and he was none the wise. That's why he's able to, famously reattach his hand.
Like I'd let you get away.
That was a huge thing that I fucking hated until it was, because I said it to because he watched me play it, and my brother was like, "What did you think of that?" When tall lady Dimitrescu cuts your hand off. And
I thought the scene was hilarious at first. I was like,
this is cool, but what are they going to do now? Is he going to get infected with something else? Because it made perfect sense in the 7th game for why he's reattaching his limbs is because he is infected, and then I think he cures himself, but he can't. I'm pretty sure that's happening in the 7th one, isn't it?
yeah, because he uses one on how I assumed was, I thought it was the first aid gel that was doing it at first.
But I thought that was too campy or something.
Yeah, I thought it was just a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of bit of fun.
You know, like Heisenberg says later, and it's a reference to the 5th one, that boulder punching asshole. That line a lot of people liked. I thought it was funny, but like,
it's very out of place. I think it's funny,
completely out of
but
place.
I was like, would you actually say that? How does he know Chris did that?
I don't know. He's immortal too, I guess. But like,
maybe he was the helicopter all along.
he was the boulder man.
He was the
Yeah. No, but like when he pours, like, it looks like super glue really half the time.
yeah.
And he glues his hand back on because Demetrius cuts it clean off. My brother said to me, and I knew, like, I was like, there's something going on here. You're going to get infected, or you are infected. So I had basically made that guess and that call. I was right. But he was like, oh, it's a tongue-in-cheek reference to how you could heal yourself in the old games. I was like, that's fine. But, like, they shouldn't have made it that apparent. Like, my fucking fingers were cut off earlier in the game. Ethan's fingers get bitten off. They're not fucking growing back, or like, you're gluing your hand back on. But he's pure mold. So that's why when he cures himself, he doesn't really cure himself because he's dead. He's pure mold. Like, and creepily enough, did he have sex with Mia? Did she have sex with a man, like moldy Ethan, and that's what made Rose?
Well, yeah. See, I from what I understand, the story is that, like, in the 7th game, so Ethan dies in the 7th game within the first like 30 minutes when Jack says, welcome to the family, and he stomps him. That's it, him dead. But the molded has already infected Ethan to the point where he can live through it, and so he goes through the 7th game, rescues Mia. They have Rose together, and then I presume maybe Mia's also infected, or
Mia was cured,
but she may not just be dead. Yeah, she's maybe still alive, and she was cured, like I said. So maybe because of the molded being made from Evelyn into Ethan, into Mia, into Rose is viewed as like the next generation Evelyn.
Oh, I know. I think that's the case, but I think there's like a purification when it passes through to so many people. I just think it's very funny, the idea that Mia reveals in it, like, to Chris and to the audience, that Ethan has been dead, and she knows that he's dead. But it's like, were you having sex with him, like all this time?
Yeah.
Which I'm not like a big fucking weird prude about, like, he's perfectly normal throughout it, but it's a funny thing to go back and think of.
My issue with that is it's not a huge thing. It just raises a few questions, like, if you were doing medical tests, would they know that he's dead, or would everything look fine? Like, I know Dimitrescu says that his blood is stale.
Yeah.
Which at the time I thought was just a joke. But
I didn't cop that.
Yeah, I when I heard that, I thought, oh, that's pretty funny. And then I was like, oh, she was tasting the mold, or that's must be what they're testing him for, because they must know that he's dead. And that's obviously why he's able to survive. That's why he has such a high pain tolerance. There's a lot of, by the way, if anyone's afraid of needles and such, don't know if I'd recommend this game. There's lots of items, sharp items being inserted in and out of his hands.
I don't think, if you have a problem with if you have a problem with your body, that sounds pretty fucked up. If you have an issue with body horror, this game's definitely not fucking for you. Like, these
there's a lot of
The Thing,
sharp things just being.
Yeah, I mean, they're all built off like George Romero's zombie movies, The Thing by John Carpenter, any David Cronenberg thing, like The Fly. Or Scanners or anything like that. So if you do not like body horror, you're fucked if you're playing this game. But
or you might, that's it's. I guess that's part of the.
I think it's great. I think it's
fun,
really good. It's very gross though. It's gotten, and I'm a big gore fan, but like, I think they really outdid themselves with this one. That all I'm thinking is, all you can go is up. I want to see more gross shit going further, like, because it's only like it's cool. Like, I really appreciate how gross and
That revelation was cool, that Ethan's been dead the entire time, and that's how he's able to survive all the things that he does.
I gotta keep going.
It does, like I say, like literal issues, I guess, what people notice, or what if he cut himself generally, would that just heal? Or the big one as well, which I can't really bring this up. I should make a note to bring it up at the end, because it'll spoil the second one and the last boss at the same time. So before we get to that, I guess we should talk about Heisenberg, who's the...
Yeah, I think we finished talking about Moreau? God, I feel bad for anyone listening to this. Just so all over the place.
Well, yeah.
Finished, didn't we?
We're both doing this off the cuff, as I'm sure you can tell. We're free spirits, as I said.
We're drunk.
Heisenberg is the fourth.
Karl Heisenberg with a K.
Is that his first name?
He's named like my name. Yeah, that's what I did when I saw it on the TV.
Oh, I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
Karl Heisenberg with a K is the fourth of the Lords. He's actually the first that you come across. And he has a very interesting ability where, first of all, he's the most human of all of them. He just seems like a regular guy. His voice, I don't know, I should have checked this. He sounds exactly like Nikolai from Resident Evil 3 Remake. Did you notice that?
I thought he sounded exactly like Keanu Reeves. And I'm not even joking. I'm not saying that as like a meme. I genuinely thought
he has a very distinctive voice. I'm just not saying about Keanu, like Heisenberg in the game.
When Keanu Reeves does like a voice like that, I feel like I'll try to make a comparison in the edit of this if I can find it. But I genuinely thought like this just sounds like a guy doing a Keanu Reeves impersonation, and he's very like I remember just impersonating the entire time throughout the game. When I was playing it, but like very distinct voice.
You and me, Ethan. Together, we can go save Rose, and we can use her to grind Miranda into paste.
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, I'm thinking I'm back.
I thought he was a really cool character, though. I liked him.
I thought his ability is really interesting. Like
yeah.
he's magnetized. I guess he controls metal, and he can just like. He captures you by like shoving scrap metal and rocks against you. Like it's a very
Ebony Maw from the Avengers. That's my first kind of thought process. You know, in the opening of that movie, in Infinity War, that's what came to my mind. But he's not played by Tom Von Lawler. I'm doing a little prayer hand because he's not dead though. I don't know why I'm looking up.
Yeah, that's
the last level was interesting with its twists and turns in regards to like he doesn't agree with the main plot.
Yeah, he's breaking free. Like he knows he's a victim. The other three seem to be
because he's the smartest. He's the best out of all of them. They say in the journals that he's the best, but he keeps referring to himself as a freedom fighter. And, I think that's a really funny thing, and it's like
I wonder what his life was like beforehand. You know?
Yeah, like I imagine he's like some sort of mechanic or engineer, but like he lives in the factory, and throughout it, you're basically this is another one of those classic. So we've had the vampires, the werewolves, and the fishman. Oh, and just a brief thing about Demetress. The whole drinking blood is built into her.
Into the story, yeah. There's a reason for it, yeah.
She needs to drink.
She needs it. That's why she's so tall, because of the virus has led to her like really fast metabolism. So she just is really tall. Needs to constantly consume meat, like flesh and blood.
And then the daughters are like insects that collected on dead bodies of 3 girls. Then there was nothing but the insects. Then they became
like there's a portrait.
Very cool stuff. You know, it's interesting stuff. But with Heisenberg, he is basically the mad scientist of the like Monster Mash, and he's made a bunch of Frankensteins. And you find out later in the game, it's because he's raising this army to fight Miranda. So that was a cool reveal. That was something different. The people have a lot of negative things to say about the factory. I liked it. I thought all the monsters were cool.
Yeah, the thing about Resident Evil, and this again is like the entire series covers this, but the remakes in particular, they seem to have a big issue where for Resident Evil, usually the first 2/3 of the game, or particularly the first quarter of the game, are brilliant in all of them. And as you get to near the end, things start to
get a bit
fall apart a bit. Yeah, either it gets too actiony, or it gets too linear, or it gets too. It's just, I don't know what it is. They just don't seem to be able to carry it the whole way to the end. Yeah. Maybe they just can't. Maybe it just can't carry that sort of gameplay style that long. So the factory it's like an industrial area. I understand that some people might think, oh, it's just sort of grimy, brown and grey everywhere. I thought the enemies were actually kind of creepy.
I thought they were cool. I think
they're a little silly, I guess, that they have like drills in their arms and lasers. And
I thought it was like it suited.
But like they're scary, especially in the dark, and you just see them marching towards you.
They all have German names as well. To Heisenberg.
Yes,
I want to credit as well the fact that he's called Heisenberg, and I never really thought of Breaking Bad. It like that has not been associated with the show rather than the guy. You know what I mean? From history rather than like.
I did think of it. That was the first thing I thought, but
it was one. But then it didn't.
Then I didn't keep thinking about it. I immediately was like, okay, this is Heisenberg.
Because I really thought Breaking Bad had taken that, and you know.
What did you think about the infamous? I don't know if you heard about the zombie with the propeller head.
I liked him. I thought he was fine. I know there was the whole controversy that
it was in another.
The Army of Frankenstein. And I'll say it right now. That movie fucking sucked. That was a
shit
movie,
I just think it's I haven't seen the film, but I think it's a very unique. Again, it's a zombie with a propeller on his head. And what's funny is you find a lore piece that says that he actually, because those blades are actually chainsaw blades.
Oh yeah, so it's another chain. Like my brother turned to me and was like, "Oh, you didn't think there was not going to be a chainsaw thing in Resident Evil, did you?" And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, I guess not." You know,
it's a. When I first saw him, actually, I thought he was way bigger than he actually is. I first saw him and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that is the weirdest looking thing ever. And it didn't like straight up scare me, but there was this real eeriness to it. And I was like, oh, this guy is scary. And I do think the fight against him, when you finally see him, he's actually about your height, which is funny. They do a trick with the perspective. So when you do first see him, it does look like he's 10 times bigger than you, but he's actually not. The fight with him is actually really scary, I think, because it's really close combat. It might actually be a little too close.
It's a lot of fun because you need to be like, you've got to make him break down all the walls and stuff first.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I thought that was cool. I liked that fight in the sense that I thought it was scary, and like thrilling. I sort of feel though that maybe the arena that you're in is too small. Like I don't know. At certain points, it's like, are you able to do this without getting hit? Like it really seems like it's really close. Maybe that's what they wanted, but it just seemed like. I wasn't really sure. What am I supposed to do to
keeps it short though? Like
it's not too long. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just with his design though, I don't think that was any problem. Like that movie is fucking shite. Like I'm sorry, but like That movie had a lot of potential.
But I guess it's just that the idea that they may have plagiarized from it because it's such a unique design.
I know. I don't even think, because that movie is made of all these Frankensteins, but I don't know, like, I mean, I think it's fair for people who think it's plagiarism, but I don't know, like a propeller on like a zombie's head, especially because it's Resident Evil, where it's like they'll do anything, and they've thought of weirder stuff than that. I feel like it would be such a weird one for them to plagiarize, to be like, we're gonna take this idea from a very obscure movie. What's it called again? Like Frankenstein's Army.
I think it's like 8 years old now or something.
It's not like, I really was looking forward to it. There's cool designs in it, but it's not a good movie. But I don't know. It just seems like the Resident Evil people to steal that, they've already come up with weirder shit themselves. I don't know if they needed to steal something. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
You know, but
I
it's a fair argument. I just don't think anything should come about it either. Not just because I like Resident Evil, but because it's like, it's very vague. You know what I mean? It's a vague idea. It's almost like, how dare you put a zombie in your thing? I have a zombie in mine. That's like, come on. You can't put werewolves in it. The Wolfman exists. Like, no, like it's. I can see it, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, you don't think it's as big a deal as...
Yeah. There was, like, the other villains in that were cool. Like, I'd never fought them. It was one of the things that I saw walking down. I was like, no, fuck that. It was the one that's entirely in armor. Looks like something, like, out of... like, it looks like a fucking Transformer, really, you know?
Oh, yeah, the jetpack ones?
No, they were I kind of laughed at them.
They were pretty funny, yeah.
But no, it was a huge one. It, like, really bulky, looked like Big Daddy from Bioshock.
Oh, it's when you're going through up the stairs, I think, isn't it? And he's just standing there.
There's two of them, yeah. The two of them come. I didn't fight either of them. I was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. So
yeah, I know the ones you talk about. They're not too bad. They just take so much ammo. Like,
yeah,
you're just
that's why they're all German names, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Like
I didn't actually make that connection now until you said the Sturm and Heisenberg. And
yeah.
It's because he's based on Frankenstein, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Again, it's a very... So, again... The first Dimitrescu's area, again, is the very classic gothic vampire horror. Moreau is the body horror. This is the more sort of industrial, age of science gone amok horror.
Steampunk kind of.
Yeah. And two, the second area is the psychological horror. So Heisenberg's area, I don't think it was bad. It's probably my least favorite of the four.
It was very, again, they have the... They're very different. They're very different to the point where I think it's even more so than some of the other Resident Evils, where it's like, the only thing I didn't like about this one is I found it very satisfying, all the puzzles and everything, but the fucking ghouls in it, again, just didn't make sense to be there, because they're in little togas and they just have like a little X-Men visor.
Yeah.
You know, a Cyclops kind of visor, and I'm like,
it probably comes off unintentionally a little silly, or... I
mean, it's just lazy. They should have been an entirely different... Why are they in little togas? They just look like they took the old ones, which they did from the game, you know, and just repurposed them very, very slightly, and not enough, you know?
This is, it's where, it's at that point in the game as well, where if you've been playing the Resident Evil games for as long as we have, you start to see through the technique. So it almost plays beat for beat, like the Regenerators.
It's not a complaint though, because it is like...
Oh, it's a great... There's a reason people use it all the time, but you just start to... Like, you see the enemy, you see the silhouette. Like, how they're introduced is quite good. He's just trapped up to a chair, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of creepy.
No, those ones with the bigger ones, I thought they were fine. I'm talking about the smaller, skinny ones that you fight throughout the game.
Yeah, I know the ones you're talking about, They sucked.
They were really bad, because all they were was the same one until boring, you shoot their little visor off, and then they're exactly the same, and it's like... This is so lazy. Just give me more of the bigger guys. I don't care if there's too much of them. I don't want to fight the little toga fucking wearing.
Yeah, I know. It's
stupid. Like, they just didn't make sense to be there. What did you think of the final boss in the little mech suit?
The mech suit. I thought that was... Gameplay-wise, I actually really enjoyed it.
That's a lot of fun. When you have a gun, that's like...
It was satisfying to just to trash away at them. Story-wise, I thought it was pretty hilarious, but I had no problems with it. I just thought...
What was he doing keeping it around?
I turned my brain off, yeah.
In the whole... It's all like... was it polycarbonate or whatever the fuck it is?
Oh, they explain polycarbonate type.
But it's like, why
maybe an alloy or something weird, yeah. Why would you keep it there?
Why would you keep... It's like when she has the blade in the castle that'll fuck her up if you stab her.
Yeah, the weird dagger, the medieval...
Why are you keeping these things around? But
I'm sure there's some... nerdy reason that'll be explained on the wiki or something.
Oh,
but
yeah, I'm sure there was a reason they had.
I have reasons in my head about why maybe she treats it like a relic or something.
Her, yes. Heisenberg, no.
Yeah, I can understand what David Trask.
I don't. Sense for the guy, Heisenberg. Why do you have this in your basement? You know what I mean? But I did think I had a lot of fun with it. However, they really had a missed opportunity when he starts to do like the tornado twister thing, and he builds you up and you're falling in. You should have been given the option to shoot while you're falling. I think it just does it for you. And there was a few problems. I like quick time events. I know a lot of people bitch about them. I always thought they suited Resident Evil, especially the fourth one. Especially when you can kill the villain, like the boss, within the cutscene to get that kind of satisfaction of like you're doing it rather than watching a cutscene. Yeah. Somebody get their head cut off. You're actually doing it. It's much more satisfying than randomly shooting them, and then just, you know, cuts to a cutscene where, you know, oh, they fall over dead. I want to be more involved in it. You know what I mean? Physically, like when I'm playing it, I want to be more involved in it, you know? But that's just me being weird again, me being sadomasochistic.
No, well, no, I understand what you mean. Yeah, it's
God of War does a good job at it. You know what I mean? Splatterhouse is another one of my favorite games. Very obscure though. Did a great job of like, you know, tapping down an X to rip out this enemy's eye, and then
the classic when you're killed Poseidon in God of War 3 and you click in the sticks to
gouge out his eyes.
Yeah,
stuff like that. I think so. I thought the Heisenberg thing was fine. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was just. The story was really getting going, so I was at the edge of my seat because this whole game is I mean, a lot of them are, but like 7 and especially now 8, you're basically like, what's going on next?
It's a big mystery, twists, you know? Like when you first see Miranda, I guess, should we talk about Miranda or should we talk about the second one first?
Maybe talk about the second one first.
Right. So this actually leads in well, so I'll just start with this. When I think about replaying Resident Evil 8, I have 2 hurdles. The first is the 4th area, the factory that we just talked about, mostly because I just feel like it's a bit of a slog. It's not a huge deal. I actually think people were way too hard on it compared to, like, I think the end of 7 and the end of 5 especially, dear God, are way, way worse.
I don't love the end of 4 easy.
4, I like 4's ending, but it's definitely, like, I think the village in 4 is a 10 out of 10. The castle's like a 9.8 out of 10, and the island is like a 9.2 or 9. It's still great, but
I know the momentum of it is meant to be like
it turns full action.
Yeah, but like, should it not get a bit scarier as it goes on with the games?
I guess they introduced the regenerators.
They were scary,
that's what we were saying. Like what I was saying earlier, maybe there isn't a way to do it with this, or maybe you make it scarier by, as it goes further, you lower the amount of enemies. And now we're talking about the full-on elite. But I think, first of all, 8 I think was nowhere near as bad as like some of the other games, but that would be my first, like when I was thinking back to replaying it, because I replayed it yesterday and I thought, okay, that's my first hurdle. The second is the second area, because I'm too afraid to go through it again.
It's so good,
because I genuinely can't even think about it now. I would say it is the scariest thing I've ever experienced in any game I've ever played.
I kind of think I agree with you. Like, I never played PT personally. Everyone loved PT, but you know the whole thing. Basically, what this is imagine if PT was made into a game and it really reached its full potential, especially the baby in the sink. The whole set. First of all, the second one.
The second Lord, is
called Donna.
Donna Benevito, I think. She's a puppeteer.
She's ventriloquist, and already I'm looking at that when the doll is leaning over you. I'm like, oh god, get it off screen, get it away. So
don't like this.
If you've ever seen Dead Silence, she's basically what Mary Shaw should have been in that movie. I didn't know she was a ventriloquist. I thought the doll was just possessed until I was in her house, and the build up to her house is like so cool. It's like Phantom Manor, where you go into a cave. You're going up an elevator. You're on the edge of a cliff. You're going through the garden.
It's absolutely incredible. The mist and the dolls hanging upside down. And
it's just a house as well. It's just a little house that has a basement, and that's it.
Well, yeah, there's no enemies.
It's not like a mansion. Yeah.
It's totally silent. There's no music or anything.
Well. You lose all your guns. It's really a step away.
It's the most incredible, because after you've just like you've been through. You've been through the castle, where it's a bit more actiony, a bit more adventure-y, exploring, and you get through the really loud, bombastic explosive boss with Dimitrescu.
Yeah, she's flying all over.
Yeah,
the
it's
place,
going.
all that
It's really
shit.
loud. You're high up. It's high octane, and then you do a bit more exposition, a bit more exploring. Then you go to this house, and it's silent.
Yeah.
There's no music. There's no
It
sound.
just winds down because
Nothing
you're going
there.
through and there's no villains either. It's just
And it's all up to you. It's in your own time. There's nothing pushes you. It's
Yeah.
like you can stay in this house as long as you want.
It's such a good build up though, because it is like I'm constantly like, oh fuck, I'm doing the ventriloquist one now. That's gonna be creepy, but you know, because I didn't expect it to be so early. But like the second one, I thought it would be at least the third one. But you go up the elevator and the private little garden and the waterfall, and for the lore of it, going through her garden because it's meant to be.
They're like
hallucin-
drugs. They're letting out a pheromone.
Now, I heard there was much debate on whether the villain in this is real or hallucination. I will say, and I'll plug this because it's really good, our own surgery head who wrote the music for the 404 podcast, he did the intro and we provided the music for the intro and the outro, has a really good video on it, and I'll link it on his YouTube channel, of that he fully believes that the villain in this is real. I'm not saying exactly what.
I'll have to watch that because I'm of the exact opposite. I think 100% it's a hallucination. But
Yeah. Well, they make the point that you get killed. Like we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we're really getting it. It's so like you get into this house, and first of all, it's actually quite a clean house. It's not. It's in fact Dimitrescu's castle for the most part. Most of it's pretty clean. The only dirty areas, I guess, the industrial areas and the morose part. But it's a pretty well kept house. There's dolls everywhere, but they're not necessarily full on scary. It's just a little
I
okay.
didn't like it. I don't.
It's
like
it's creepy. It's
I
like
only realized she was the human in that portrait on her
portrait,
stairs, though. You know, but you're expecting dolls to like attack you, and you really expect it to be that kind of like.
you think you'll go into a room and something will have moved, or like you'll start to hear giggling or something. But again, it's totally silent. It's totally like, and then
it's to the basement.
Yeah, then you go into this corridor, and the wallpaper starts to be peeled away and torn down. You're like, okay. And then you go into this lift, this elevator, you go down, and then you enter the scariest
to the basement.
moment. This is where
this is the thing that you said as well. It's the daytime. It's not too bad. You're going into the basement. I remember when I was playing, I was like, I don't have to go to the basement, do I? Because you go into the basement, it looks a lot like PT because it just looks like a house as well. It's these long hallways with like little.
It's very claustrophobic. You can't at certain points. Now when the lights are on, you can, but when the lights are off, it's one of those. It's like when you were small and you were like a kid and you couldn't see the end of the hallway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It and then it's like, it's basically a mortuary. Setup, and you got the little lab, and you've got the way you work on the body. You know where the cadaver is, and lying down there is a mannequin made up of Mia. And it's basically just a puzzle game throughout it where you take out, you have to use tweezers to get all these clues out of her, and then fucking the acid trip begins and the lights go out. Oh, and all your guns have been taken away.
They have, yeah. You enter in the room and you see the doll. What's the doll's called? Angie, I think her name, Angie?
Yeah,
Angie.
something like that, yeah.
And she basically, at first you think, it's going to be like creepy dolls, and then she takes all your items away. And you think, okay. I was actually stuck in the puzzle part for a while, and eventually I did get it. But there's lots of, again, it's very quiet. Like there's bits where you have to set up a projector. You look at the projector, and then out of nowhere, after the projector's done, it just crashes onto the ground really loud, and a secret door opens, and you go to a new part of the house, which is even dark, more dingier, and you keep doing this, and eventually you find where you need to go down this well, and you go down the well, you get this item to open up the breaker so you can get out of the house again. You think, okay, I'll just leave. And once you get back up, you realize the lights are all out.
Yeah.
And this is where the fun begins.
It's like, I think the only issue I had with this part is that I knew
you can only experience it once.
Yeah, it was almost like everything's. Well, no, that's actually not true. You can experience that, and it can still be freaky.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah,
it's all downhill in regards to scares from here. This is the scariest part of the game, and they've put it very kind of early on in the game that I was kind of like, I'm not going to experience this again.
Yeah, there's scary bits after, but it's nowhere near. In fact, this might be the apex of the entire franchise.
Oh, this is the scariest thing.
Yeah, like I think if you can get to this part of the game.
Well, let's just. The mannequin is gone.
Yeah.
The umbilical
and there
cord.
is
Yeah.
blood splattered everywhere, and there's an umbilical cord and blood dripping off it, just going off, and all the lights are off now, so there's just darkness.
Yeah.
So you follow it because you just want to leave. And then a giant baby fetus thing.
Yeah, a giant fetus. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arrives, but it's not a regular first of all, it's I think if you actually check the lore stats, it's like 7 feet long, 5'10", which I'm 5'10", so it's literally my height when I'm standing up.
It would kill you like that, David.
Oh yeah, it apparently
it's right here now.
it eats whatever it sees. Mm-hmm. It's called Baba, I think it's its actual name, and it's 2 minutes old. They do confirm it is birthed from Mia's mannequin.
Then I think it's real then, and I get why people. Well, let me just. I'll talk about the introduction of it first. It looks like the thing from PT. It does. It just looks like a big one, but. What was great about it is I'm playing it and I'm talking to somebody as I'm playing it, and I'm like, because he knows, like my brother knows what's happening, but you have the torch and you can see it glisten before you see it.
Yeah.
I didn't notice the umbilical cord. I was too like, oh, I'm freaking out, so I'm going through. So I missed all that, but you can see it glisten from afar, and then it slowly walks into the light, and it was like, what fucking game am I playing? Like, it became Silent Hill so gradually, I didn't even notice, Like,
yeah, it's such a, and the sounds it makes, it's like a laughing baby girl, but it's demonic, like, and it's
fast as fuck,
Its legs are backward, like it's like
looks like a weird chicken.
The lower half of it's like the upper half is like a fetus. The lower half is a fully grown, like backwards bent legs. It's all.
It looks like chicken. It reminded me of like a chicken wing, like an.
It's like an under. Yeah. It's very uncomfortable, and like it doesn't have teeth or anything. It's just
like, it's David Lynch kind of, like, it's, again, I keep saying PT, but it's like what they saw from Eraserhead with David Lynch.
Oh, you are sick.
Times, like, it's really what, like, I felt like it's like, sort of bittersweet that PT was never made, but this is kind of what I feel like was
what it would have, like,
it's
mean? Such a claustrophobic, like, that specific part of the house is completely claustrophobic. It's pitch black.
It just becomes a puzzle game.
Now it's just straight up you're being
haunted.
Amnesia.
You're hiding from
this is definitely 10 times the fear that I felt like with Mr. X, and I felt really scared with Mr. X, but like this is, and I was playing this in the middle of the day without my headphones on. The house was full, people were in the house. I really wish I had played this with headphones on at night, and also this was spoiled for me, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
It was, yeah. The YouTube algorithm ruined it for me, where all it said was what happens when the baby catches you, and I could see
it eats you whole, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And it says yummy.
That's great. It's not great for you. I feel bad, but
so I had got it, but no, it still freaked me out, and even though it was middle of the day.
Opposite to that though, which I played it at night, had no idea that shit was coming. I know. I've asked people ahead of time. It's like, is it scary? Yes, it's scary. You said to me, because you'd played it first, there's a part in it that's legitimately one of the scariest things I've ever played. So that was in the back of my mind. I was like, okay, when's this coming up? I felt like it was going to be the doll thing because, you
can sort of tell from the way it's described.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, that looks kind of.
The dolls are scary anyway. Like, probably that bit. But did I? I thought it would have been creepy. I didn't expect it to be like, this is really gross and unpleasant, but in a great way. And you escape it though. It's basically you finish the puzzle and you get out of there as quick as you can. You just get the fuck out of there, and then you can't go back. I love the idea that you could go back, that it's still there. I like the concept that it's still there.
Yeah, like it's still, you could just go back and visit. It's like you're being haunted by it. Like you have to hide under a bed. You have to hide. Sorry?
That'd be great if you could go back and you could hear it in the basement.
Yeah, like either banging or laughing or something. Yeah, that would be really awesome, actually. Yeah. Like you can. Like you're hiding under a bed. Like there was a bit where I was hiding under. The scariest part for me was like, and you could hear her come into the room behind you, and I thought, is he gonna grab me and just eat me? I was like, am I in far enough? Will I go too far? And even Ethan, you can hear him like genuinely like panic and freaking out.
The acting is great with that, like the voice acting, but just so much of that is just like, what the fuck is that? And it's not even like the Resident Evil, oh, what the fuck is that? It's genuinely just like proper fear.
oh yeah, it's straight up. We've left any sort of quips behind. It's genuine. Like,
Yeah.
I need to concentrate the fuck out right now.
We
Like,
need
this is
like the Leon character to get in there to say a few quips.
yeah.
you know?
If this was Resident Evil 4, and we reference 4 a lot, this is very clearly 8 and 4 are of the same sort of.
Oh yeah, that's so similar.
ilk,
Like, I
I
thought
suppose.
there'd be a lot more connections between them because I even thought Miranda looked a lot like Sadler.
Sadler, yeah.
Sadler, like I just thought they were very similar religious figures.
And
you
instead
know?
of a very short Spanish noble, we have a very tall Romanian noble.
It's but she also has. I'm not sure if she is Spanish though, because her daughter died of Spanish flu and everything like
Yeah.
that. So, yeah.
Well, she's yeah. So the Domatrescu would be Romanian, and Salazar, I think, is Spanish.
He is
He's
Spanish,
Castellan.
yeah, because of the little person in it. What's his name?
Oh, Salazar.
Salazar. They're a Spanish royalty or something. Or
Yeah,
hierarchy,
or at least a noble family of some sort.
Yeah. Side note, I really like the concept that they find the Las Plagas and.
Oh, in the fossils, yeah, and then he does it, yeah, and that's how they reintroduce it.
I imagine that they had to go to him because he in Spain, religion and the hierarchy, like the royalty, are hand in hand. So,
yeah,
like they would have to refer to the church to be like, what should we do with this? And he's basically, oh well, I'll take it. That's cool with me. But that's,
yeah, it's cool.
something
Yeah,
discussed at a
but
later
it's a
date,
cool
you know?
that it plays into that. Like, it has a reason to be in Spain.
Yeah, just the baby being real. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is
I'm
can't
taking
wait to hear
stuff
this.
from that video I mentioned, but I think I'm getting it wrong as well. But the idea, I think, Resident Evil going forward is not a body horror anymore. It's also what you can imagine can become reality, because not only does it, like, again, there's plot holes and stuff, but it doesn't matter. It gets into your body, gets into your brain, and it figures out what you fear, and it makes it real. It grows, and I don't think that's too much of a stretch because of Resident Evil. And that's what I think. There's a new level of pants shitting, like mind fuckery going forward. That's like, you can manipulate your body. That's creepy. Let's manipulate your mind and let's bring both of them together. So I do think it was grown from a hallucination, and that might be a stretch. And I think a lot of the signs do point to it just being a hallucination from the garden, like in all of her texts in the lab at the end of the game. But I don't know. I just really want it to be real,
Yeah, no. You see, my argument's really similar, except like when you go in, my view of it was that what's happening when you go through those flowers, you breathe in some spore or something.
I agree. That's why I think they set it up great, because you walk around that little hall, like the little
grave for the,
what is it, like a chalice of
like chalice type thing.
No, that's the arch. I don't know, garden stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean, like a sort of
It's like a
orchard
little, I
type.
think the word is chalice of all the bushes, so you are breathing it in, because you have to, because it's almost like tricky to get in there. You have to
Yeah, like they
walk
make it
in
very
and
clear,
around
like
it.
you have to go past this very, like, yeah, and the mist and it. So like I presume when you get in, you're already kind of drugged up a bit.
Yeah.
And then once you go down there, like, you have to deposit your photo of Mia. And
Yeah.
so maybe it's like a ticket, and they look at it and like, okay, here we're gonna feck with this guy.
Yeah.
So I assume it's some sort of manifestation of his guilt or terror, or like fears of fate, or maybe it's foreshadowing that Rose is Evelyn, that she has these powers, that she's
yeah, I think that's another thing to say is when people say that it's solely, and I can see your point exactly, but when people say that, oh, it's a hallucination, but it's also like, they all have parts of Rose. They know that his child was taken. If it's a psychological game, would it be much for the Resident Evil canon or characters
to
be
make
like,
it? Yeah,
let's make a giant baby. They can pretty much make whatever they want. It's now maliciously, let's make what's now in his head. So it's like, let's just make a big fetus to fuck with Ethan. And,
Yeah, I completely get what you mean. I think I'm the opposite of you, though, where I just desperately want it not to be real.
yeah, okay.
Because it makes me feel better, where like what I believe is happening, if you get caught by it, because if it's not real, that you just are so frightened you have a heart attack and die. Now, this is where I was saying earlier, where I said I'd make a note about something that doesn't really make sense. Near the end, when you're fighting Miranda, or just before you fight Miranda, she takes your heart, like straight up puts her hand in her chest and pulls your heart out. So, and Ethan is able to revive himself because of the mold. So why can't he just revive himself on other, like, in other instances, like if Moreau eats him, or if he has a heart attack, if that's what's happening with the baby, why can't he just punch his way out of the baby or something? If he can literally have his heart.
That's another one of those things that I don't think it matters. You know. That
Yeah,
kind
I
of
know.
thing.
I
Will we
just
talk about Miranda now then.
I guess so, yeah, because I don't really want to go too much about the baby, because it's so, like, even us telling about it here,
It's not a justice. It's just too fucking.
it's just, you need to experience it for yourself. Like, oh my god, and that, no joke, is a big reason why I have a real mental block about replaying it. I'm like, I just genuinely, I replayed it yesterday, and it was terrifying. I was like, is there an option for it just to do it for me?
Watching it is fine too. Like, if you can't play it, watch it. It's creepy, but like playing it, you'll never. It's such a good experience.
I wish,
play,
yeah,
you know?
I just wish I had played it at night with the headphones on and it hadn't been spoiled. Even with it being spoiled, it was terrifying. I wish I had no idea what was coming.
Yeah. I feel bad now for people who haven't. Nah, look, fuck it.
Well, I mean, like, what,
our description did nothing to the actual. I guarantee you, we undersold it. You know.
Yeah.
Let's go Mother Miranda, because we're kind of talking over time now.
Oh yeah.
But I really saw, like, the only issue, Mother Miranda was really cool. We talked about her a lot earlier, and just how she set up the whole series, which is cool.
Yeah. She's like she's been there for like 120 years now at this stage, or
kind of pushed to the side for a lot of the game. You see her in the opening, and there's not really much.
She's when we do see her, it's pretty creepy. Like, we see the first time we actually see her is when she kills one of the villagers, and she disappears into the field, and I'm like, that's pretty creepy. When you get the first piece of Rose and you put it in, and you see her, a flashback to her looking at you directly in the camera, like there's a lot of creepy imagery.
She's there throughout it though. She obviously she mimics Mia. She's the
she's
old
there
woman.
from the very start. She's the first person you hear.
She's the
narrator at the start.
Yeah, and she's the hag throughout it.
Yeah, she's like, once you beat the game and then replay it, it plays out very, like, I was like, oh, this is weird, because you can.
It's like the Evelyn twist. You find out the grandmother is Evelyn, which I love. You know. So
once you know it, it changes everything, and it's really cool.
I think though the whole thing that she's motivated by bringing back her daughter who died of Spanish flu, which is very cool. Like, it's cool motivation. She's still evil as fuck though. You know, she started the whole thing and she doesn't.
Oh, she's a very sad story. The way she discovers the Megamycete is like pathetic. She discovers it by accident.
Yeah,
and they don't even hide that. They straight up say, "Oh, it was an accident.
I wandered in to die."
Yeah, and I found the Megamycete.
Yeah,
and that's it.
But it's cool, and I really thought she's so much like Sadler, because is it Sadler? Yeah,
Sadler is the main cult leader. Salazar is the short guy. Yeah,
Sadler. Yeah, because they looked like religious characters. She looks like she based off religious imagery. She's got like a little halo looking thing, you know, like the drawings of
meant to represent the
Mary
sun, apparently. Sorry, I'm only bringing this up because the art director, when he leaves comments on the concept art, it's very interesting, but he talks like it was meant to represent the sun, and to represent that she has been around for like far longer, like she's almost like eternal. The fact that she's
cool. She had great monster designs at the end of it too, really satisfying, sort of like Angel of Death.
She
like
looks
Hellboy too, if you ever saw the Angel of Death and that. So like she turns into a spider. A lot of, again, looks like Sadler, what he turned into when he turned into the spider. She is more
she looks very for want of a better word, in a very, she looks very beautiful in a horror way, like a very angelic. She looks like a demon
in her creature
type
mode. It's not grotesque. It's
not
like
grotesque. It looks, there's something very noble about the way she looks. Like, it's not body horror necessarily. It's, again,
I think
she looks old and
they
very
deliberately tried to make it look like Angel of Death.
Yeah, she's been around for a very long time, and that she's so it's. I think she's a bit of a wasted character in that, like, she is pushed aside
a lot. She's really like,
she appears at the bit at the start, and then once or twice we hear about her throughout the story, and then at the very end we don't fully even reveal what she looks like or her motivations until the last hour.
A lot of the game as well is like cliffhanger. Like, I love that though, because it's like a movie.
Yeah.
But like, even when they leave on the plane, the what's it called, the BBSC or
BSAA.
Yeah, the reveal that they've been using zombies.
Yeah,
I fucking love all that. I can't wait to. Oh fuck,
that scared me. Even.
Totally fucked
Miranda's here.
Again. I love that. I really want to see.
I'd say Resident Evil 9 will be from what I understand, again, that they want to have Resident Evil 9 be like an Infinity War style, like everyone's back, a bit like 6, I guess, but everyone, like Jill,
I would
Chris.
make it good though, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Start killing characters off.
Yeah, when they said, "Oh, the character times end," turns out it was Ethan.
I thought that. Sorry, that's because there's not much to talk about with Mother Miranda. Is there a cool character?
Yeah, like we
cool
said,
ending,
she's not.
you know?
The Four Lords have way more of a presence.
Cool.
Miranda's tragic. She's interesting, but that's
cool connection. But the whole thing is like Ethan's at the end of it. He comes back to life after being killed. He saves Rose and he blows up the Megamycete. I fucking love this ending. I made fun of Ethan throughout the game. I thought the ending was really bittersweet, and it was only made better by the ending of the story, where they go back to that weird kind of 3D animation like Coraline or whatever, and it's the dad running in, killing the witch and burning down the forest. That was really sweet.
Oh,
that
I
was
love
a
that. Yeah,
and then the whole end
the father
song was
stories,
amazing. You know, that was
and then the
really
post-credit scene, yeah, with the where Rose is like she got to have a full life and growing up.
Do you think that's? I don't think that. I think it's not in the future. I think it's like 3 years in the future.
Very interesting that you said that, because I was thinking to myself, now how long she looks like she could be mid-teens to late, like maybe tween type thing. So I was like, well, this is at least 13 or 14 years. This is like 20, 30 something. But it's interesting. So I was thinking now maybe because of the Evelyn connection, it's like 3 or 4 years, and she's like grown up.
I think that is the case, and
because like how long does Chris have to be condemned to have to do this?
I don't think because she says the line about Chris. I don't think they do that unless they're going to do a huge time skip in the next one. But I feel like they'll want to have the ability to kill off Chris and be suspenseful that way. So I do think she's been rapidly aged. I think it adds kind of a tragedy, kind of a very tragic element to that character. But Evelyn coming back was great. I loved Evelyn in 7. So when she came back in,
do you think that actually was Evelyn, or do you think it was just like some sort of his inner self letting it out?
I think it was his inner self. That's what I took it as when I first played it. But honestly, though, Evelyn is the molded, because the molded came from the Megamycete. But Evelyn is the molded, so maybe there's an element of it that everyone says is a plot hole. Why was she never able to control Ethan in the 7th one? And that's a plot hole they didn't answer. But I take it as in throughout that game, she wants Mia to be her mom and Ethan to be her dad. So I feel like, and could be people say, "Oh, that's bullshit." I feel like it's a thing where she doesn't have control over Ethan as the molded because A, she probably doesn't know in some way that she's blocked it out. And I think B kind of ties into that. It's because he's this parental figure. You know, the dad is usually the one that gives out to you and stuff like that. So like maybe
she's role playing that.
Maybe she's blind to it. So
it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's I thought it was cool. I love this game in general. I think it's my new favorite one right next to 4. 7 was great too, but I think they've constantly...
They're different. Yeah, I would say you could budge them into 1, 2, 3, and 7 are more like the adventure horror type thing. 4 and 8 definitely. We didn't even talk about the merchant, but I guess we can't talk about.
He comes back in a different role. He's a very much more of a character in this one where he interacts with everyone, and it's really cool because he plays big parts of the story. He's talking to you and like, what the fuck is going on? It's like, oh well, I don't know either. You know, it's a lot more than just like, oh, he's a game. He's like the typewriter in the 4th one. You know what I mean? Yeah,
100%. It's cool. Like there are lots of these connections to 4 and 8, probably because Resident Evil 4 remake is coming out next year, I think, or it might have been delayed until 2020.
They wanted to do a lot more. Give me fucking Code Veronica.
Yeah, that was bullshit. Why
and then give me the first one. everyone keeps saying, I know a lot of diehard fans like, well, the first one was remade and it's perfect. I'm sorry, I don't want it on tank controls. I've played it on tank controls. It's a very good remake, but if they want to do like new remake, do it in the style of the second game and make it great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now the only thing I'll say to that is, in the remaster of the remake, they do give you the option not to use tank controls, but the only issue there is
but I want it like in the way that, you know.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Just to fit in line. It's like, you know,
I understand that argument. I just think I'm one of those pretentious people who thinks that the first one remake is like, it's a brilliant remake.
No, it is. It's a lot of fun. I played it.
But I know people are like,
I played it on the PS4,
some people just can't get past the
it's like a completionist thing where I would love to see all of them, but I really do think you need Code Veronica. It's not like a side game.
Yeah, it's a very important, and it carries on like literally a week after Resident Evil 2 for Claire.
And then like it should connect as well, shouldn't it? That again, we're going off topic, and I won't go into it, but like there's connections between that one and the fourth one that I think they're really into, you know. So with the third game, the third remake,
2 leads into Veronica, which leads into 4, which leads into 5. 5 leads into 7. Like it all connects together, and it's.
I think it's important that they go back, but I think they're going to get to it eventually. But definitely check this game out. I'm wrapping up kind of quickly because we've gone on for quite a while.
We've gone on. So as I said, 1, 2, 3, and 7 are great for the more horror sort of like adventure puzzle, I guess. 4 and 8 are a mixture of action and horror. Like there's lots of different things going on. 5 and 6 are. I like 5 when I first played through. It's fine for a playthrough, I think.
I liked it when I played it first, but it's not.
It's
very
not.
hard to go back and play it.
If you play 5 first and don't enjoy it, don't let that ruin 4 for you. Don't let it ruin for the rest.
I wouldn't. If you do let it ruin it, you're stupid. Because
I know, but I know people unfortunately seem to get that impression. 6 I haven't played, but I've heard that.
Oh, you should play it.
I should
play it. We should do a thing when we play it, like because it's like. It's not a good game at all. Like it's really bad, but it's worth.
Again, I won't say anything one way or the other because I haven't played it, but it's a very divisive game. So you might like it, you might not. But
no, I mean it's worth checking out if you're a fan. But that's Resident Evil 8 Village.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's I'd recommend it. It's scary, fun.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Expect us to talk about more of these in the future. Again, this is just one-off games. If you like movies, I'm gonna go back and talk about movies. Of course, it's all about the movies. Of course. This is such a cinematic game. I felt like I had to talk about it. That's my excuse.
That's always the excuse.
Yeah,
do what we want.
Yeah, it's
pretty fun.
Yeah. What is a film, man? What is a film? What do you want to plug before you go?
I guess I should say the Playback podcast. You're doing it to me again. We are working on, or I am working on editing the third episode, which is kind of pathetic to say, but we also
had 7 episodes out.
Yeah. This ain't my full-time gig yet.
We should do this is maybe off topic, but maybe I'll leave it an integration of the two of them in regards to I do one Resident Evil, you do another Resident Evil.
Yeah, like have a spin-off type thing, like
like tie them together and link them, you know what I mean? So that could be interesting, you know? An invasion, you know?
I could have you on for Resident Evil 4
invasion,
or Resident Evil 2 or something.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Instagram or anything like that?
Not at the moment, but working on that too. But
okay, cool.
Thank you, anyways. I'm very happy that I got to talk about this.
You can follow 404 Films, 404 Films on Instagram, and you can follow Karl, me, on Instagram on my new name, Karl Cahill Bounty Law. See, I finally changed that. I promised I'd change it, you know. Thanks for coming, David.
Thank you so much for having me.
Resident Evil. I'm just gonna, I don't know, what are we gonna do to just wind it?
Exit the world of survival horror.